I'm Jack Nichols and welcome to
He's going to break Smith's world title.
Oh, he's done it! And look at these two go! He's going to do it! His first victory!
The World Championship is done.
What a race it's been!
Hello everybody and welcome to the Red Bull Ring for the Austrian Grand Prix in round 4 of the Formula SimRacing World Championship in 2025. Since the start of June and with the start of the 2025 World Championship, we've seen one driver really dominate over the course of the first 2 rounds. Anyway, Mark Schluter, round 1 and 2 taken by him with last round, a change in things. Reuven Mercedes taking his first victory in the World Championship just in front of Mark Schluter here at the Australian Grand Prix towards the end of July. That's now 3 weeks in the past and the drivers have now made their way over to the first European round of the season, ready for the European leg of the season, which is the middle 3 rounds effectively. The Austrian Grand Prix followed by the British Grand Prix in 5 weeks' time and then the Belgian Grand Prix only a fortnight after that. This is how the championship currently looks. Mark Schluter leading by 28 as things stand over Reuven Mercedes. Tom Oldermanger still doing very well. All top 6s so far, although his finishing position has generally been going down race to race. Then it's Geoffrey Fournier and Sander Kallas. Fournier with 2 podiums and a DNF. Really topsy-turvy season for him so far. Zolk Soeks is in 6th place at Patrick Hanko, who's the furthest up to have finished all races, but not all on the points. George Argianis 8th place ahead of Istvan Stingel and Christian Pascal to round out the top 10. And indeed, as you get towards the bottom end of that top 10, as you can see, not all of the drivers have been at all the rounds so far this season, as we've seen. So hopefully that will change here, and hopefully we'll have every driver at the Austrian Grand Prix. Of course, however unlikely that is. We're actually visiting this track for the first time in 9 years. The 2016 World Championship was the last time we were at the Red Bull Ring for 71 laps of racing. That was won by Michele D'Alessandro, the reigning champion, I think he was at the time, if I remember correctly. Winning that race by just half. No, he wasn't reigning champion. He was driving the number 1 car, so. Oh no, he wasn't. Anyway, I'm reading the wrong columns. Michele D'Alessandro won, though, half a second ahead of Daniel Kish. David Greco finishing in 3rd place. That was your podium that day. Of the recent names we've seen in the championship, Michi Hoyer was in the top 5, but other than that, a lot of names that you've only joined the FSR World Championship in the last 5-6 years or so, you may not recognise. It was 9 years ago. And of course, your own Kuikel went on to win the title that season. He didn't actually turn up to the Austrian Grand Prix for whatever reason. He did still win the championship comfortably by 79 points that year. 9 years on, though, we're back again, and pleased to be back again as well. It's myself, Ewan, and Amir Oates bringing you commentary, with Pascal Eggert bringing you the cameras tonight. Good to be alongside you, Amir, for this one. It's another round of the World Championship before the rather long 5-week break we've got now for the summer, and a chance really before that long break to get Mark Schluter back in sight after the first 3 rounds that he's had this year.
Well, I mean, Mark Schluter's been absolutely phenomenal so far. I mean, he's only been lowest was 2nd back in Melbourne, and the fact that he's been also, racking up pole positions or being very strong and qualified, he might look for another one and maybe cement it here before the summer. But don't forget Reuven Mercedes, though. He's got 2 pole positions into his name, and when we see here, this is the shortest track on the calendar. The qualifying margins cannot get any more smaller than here in Austria.
No, not really. It's such a difficult circuit to actually make the difference. So few corners around here. Track maps have it at 10, but I mean realistically, there's probably even less than that if we're being honest. We'll have a look at these first times come in here in a few moments' time. It looks like Reuven Mercedes has taken the first sector anyway. With that purple, only Lucas Viskert has not decided to go out with the rest of them and set this time immediately, unless that's just not appearing on the left-hand side for us. 2 purple sectors for Mercedes. I know he's going round first, but he's not being beaten either by anybody coming past him. So this is a good time. Opening time for Mercedes. He very nearly loses it out of the final corner. He goes over the line behind a few other drivers. He goes to the top, perhaps unsurprisingly. That slide out the final corner, though, shows there might just be a little bit more on the table for him.
Yep, absolutely. You can see with Sandy Cowles though going purple through the final sector, which means that he's about 1/10 ahead behind of Ruben Miche. So very good strong there from the Grand Effect car. Fournier Such makes up for the top four. So it's an optimal 1, 3, and 4. Very strong performance from them so far.
Absolutely, we've seen that so many times here up Terminal this season. You reminded me to go through the team standings actually while we're on the subject. 10 points is the gap between Up Terminal and Go Team Racing, who are the real two teams who are fighting for this title. 10 points apart, 113 to Up Terminal after 3 rounds, and Go Team with 103. Grand Effect SimRacing team of 56 back from Up Terminal, 60 points back for Vega Valley eSports. Only Odomenga and Mancini, of course, are those drivers. The other teams ahead of them have more than 2 at each race. Now, not both of them, or only 2 of them count, I should say. However, it does help to have more bullets in the gun. MV Conquest, only one of their drivers turned up last week at Australia. Excuse me, Viscott and Borodski got to the end actually, as Jesse Latinen unfortunately didn't appear. Squire Nation eSports were making their debut last time out at the Australian Grand Prix, and they're at the back end of the field, 113 points behind. A little bit of a different way to work through the team standings this time around. But as you point out, Optimino looking dominant here so far early on. All 3 of their drivers ahead of all of the Go Team drivers as well. And Mark Schluter again, I think it's a recurring theme. Again, Schluter showing himself to be the strongest of the Go Team drivers in terms of flying the flag for them in the teams, and also for himself, of course, in the drivers.
Seems outside of the top 5 though as it stands, so he's in the championship pursuit at the minute, so being in the 5th in the way of this and Spielberg, it's not a very good sign, but he's definitely going to go for another one again, running on with Solch and Fournier just up ahead. He knows that he could probably do better, but meanwhile Ruben Shea, he's gone purple for the first sector.
Yeah, purple again for Ruben Machete. Let's go on board with him for this middle sector of the Red Bull Ring there, out of Slosh Gold turn 4. Around that long right-hander, which really doesn't mean anything. Turn 5, then turn 6. This is where the downforce at Roush corner and the Verve curve really come into play. Super high speed through here in a Formula 1 machine, and a little bit of a snap there coming through the next right-hander, which is not really a thing again. Now for the final couple of corners, turn 9 and turn 10, using all of the curves here. This is where his slide was last. Oh, he does it exactly again. Almost like we're watching a replay of the previous lap, but it's 3 purples this time, and it's a 104.0.
Yep, and with that slide at the exit, that means that if he kept it a bit more on, kept his throttle a bit easier, see there with Salianis just also going a bit sideways here for the second sector, but Ruben Miche looking really strong here, and the amazing thing is he can even go in faster.
Might well be. Let's see here for the rest of this session. Giannis isn't going to go any faster. He goes into the pit lane. Often see that during a qualifying session actually. Zolt Zooks then is the only driver really out there improving at all, and even if it is just a personal best on the driver in 4th position. Also got Viscott, who's improving from 14th, and Christian Bill as well from the Go Team down at the bottom end of the field. Cedric Bill, excuse me, let's say Christian. Cedric Bill, who didn't turn up to the Bahrain Grand Prix but has been at every round since. This is Viscott through the final corner now and over the start-finish line. This will be an improvement of position, I would have thought. There you go, up to 12th place. Very congested at that part of the field, actually. It's just Ruben Machete who's making this look like not a very close qualifying session.
No, absolutely not. You can see the result suits though, just through the final 3 sector, the final 3rd sector, just out of the penultimate corner, it just extends way too much. That's what drivers need to be absolutely careful of, to not track extend so much to have your lap invalidated. So it's going to be a very difficult balancing game here. I was seeing them in Chidi, gone a bit sideways, and look at that. That's just, yeah, coming up for the turn 9. You need to be really careful. Really need to be careful.
As first bit of contact with the wall we've seen so far today. This is Jeffrey Fournier. Now through the middle sector. Driver who's currently 4th place in the Drivers' Championship, in the World Championship, making his 30th appearance in the World Championship with this round. So 11th place is his average finish. It's a bit unfair on him, really, certainly in recent times. He's done a little bit better than that every time he's finished this season. He's been on the podium, but not getting to the end of the lap either. And that's been a bit of a common theme, hasn't it? Everybody seems to be bailing from this lap time before it ends.
Yeah, I think they just don't see maybe the improvement, or maybe possibly track extends. We see that Stan Siegel, Algan, just a bit too much off the track, but we'll see if he'll be even invalidated going through the final quarter now. Will it be an improvement for the autumnal driver? Will it even count? Let's see, go across the line. It does actually count. He's up into 7th.
That's a nice time for Zingle. Look at that for Optiminal. 5 in the top 7, sorry. Luter and Callas, the only ones disrupting that. Can Cosmo Prosciutto disrupt it as well? Pro champion of years gone past in Formula Sim Racing competition. He can't improve there. He stays in 9th at the moment. And his points would be carried forward, by the way, in the teams if things stay as they are for Go Team. A number of personal bests, but Ruth Machede almost looks like he's going to stay in the pit lane now to the end of the session. He thinks and probably knows that he's done enough. As you say, probably could get a 103 out of that car, but he isn't going to, by the looks of it. He just pops out of the pit lane now, so maybe he'll give it one last go, but he's been in there for a few minutes now, just resting on his laurels a little bit and resting on this big lead that he's got.
Yeah, I mean, Ruben's been really good, looking to eye for his third pole position, which is frankly unheard of in the first 4 races, especially with how competitive the thing is. Sander Callas a bit sideways off from the gravel, and that's his qualifying run done, I believe.
That might well be that. Yeah, minute and a half. It's just about gone. And there's a spin for Sluter. The championship leader spins out of the final corner, and Mark Sluter will have to start this race from 5th position if he wants to keep this run of results going where he finishes in the top 2 every round. He's certainly going to have to do some overtaking, or he's going to have to produce something in the final minute of qualifying. Of course, it's only a 65 second lap round here.
Yeah, absolutely. Look at Mark Schluter, though, 5th, and he's about 8 thousandths away from Such, just up ahead, and also in the midst of a terminal sandwich here with Brashcock as he's navigating through the first sector.
Just alerted to the track temperature, by the way, on the right-hand side of your screen at 44 degrees Celsius. That is certainly going to be affecting these guys, and whether that's a factor in this qualifying session to what we're seeing right now, or whether it's more going to be a factor in the race, we will wait and see. But it is notable at this time in the year. Now final couple of corners for Jens Braxtock. No stranger to the pole position here in the World Championship, but still no race win for him in the World Championship. What about here at the Red Bull Ring? He moves up to 3rd. That's a good improvement from him. That'll be the end of his session, and he'll be very happy with that.
He will be happy with that, about 1/100ths away from Kaz. That's currently in 2nd. Cedric Bill goes across the line. If he proves he does improve, up to P13. Pretty good there from the Go Team racing driver.
It's a good improvement, just behind Tom Oldenmenger, whose qualifying has just tailed off a little bit for this mid part of the season, but his race pace is still absolutely up there, and he's not finished outside the top 6 all year yet. This is Jesse Lattinen back after missing the Australian Grand Prix only a few weeks ago. He moves up to the top 10 for him. Moncini moves up to 12th place. In the background, here's Zingle, who comes over the line now in 8th, but moves up to 7th ahead of Hanko. A purple sector meantime for Zoltzuks. Is there going to be a late twist in this session?
There might be. Just depends on the final 2 corners, how well he can manage it. Here we go through the first corner. He's a bit clean. Will look at the Hungarian may be able to snatch something here. No, it's a bit too wide out.
Oh, he blows his engine. Oh, all the way to the line. The fireball over the line. No pole position. Meant to be seeing what he actually could have done had he not blown his engine up there, but I don't think the last 2 corners were quite, certainly the last corner wasn't quite as clean as it needed to be. This is Mark Sluter, who's looking to rescue his race, really. He'll be stuck in a lot of Optiminal traffic if this is not a big improvement. That's very tidy, though. Can he rescue this at the very end? Let's see for Mark Sluter. He can. He's on the front row. Mark Sluter, the championship leader, on the front row, and that was absolutely crucial.
Yep, very important there for City. He'll be absolutely ecstatic with that, to be alongside Machete for the front row. And now that he's got a strategy, needs to put it onto perfection. But very good there from the championship leader, especially when things were looking dire.
Goodness me. That was a qualifying session and a half. Not really for pole position, but for the positions further back. That was very, very exciting indeed. What could Zooks have done, maybe, if that hadn't befallen him in the last couple of moments? Mark Sluter rescuing 2nd place there, getting ahead of Sander Callas, who didn't really improve there towards the end of that session at all.
Hello, I'm Jack Nicholson.
He dropped down to 3rd. There's the qualifying results for you. Just a quarter of a second between Machete and Sluter, with Sander Callas rounding out the top 3. Then it will be Jens Braxtock. In fact, a row of Optiminals, Fournier, Zooks and Zingle. Then Patrick Hanko, George Lagianis, Rasse Lattinen will round out the top 10 there. They're just over 6 tenths behind pole position. Cosmo Prosciutto was as well. He's 11th, ahead of the 2 Vega Valley eSports drivers of Mirko Mancini and Tom Oldenmenger, with Cedric Bill, Nando Massa and Lucas Viscott running out the field. Only 1 second top to bottom, which I guess points to what you were saying earlier about the qualifying times around Austria. But still, nevertheless, very, very impressive across the 16 drivers.
Yeah, you said that, Ewan, but I didn't expect Ruben Maché to just lead ahead by 2/10 ahead.
That puts it into perspective even more, doesn't it? Effectively, second place to 16th is what, 7.5 tenths of a second. It's even closer. But yeah, taking Mercedes out of the equation is a big part of it, given how much he took pole by there.
Yeah, I know. Absolutely incredible. Probably one of his strongest pole positions that we've seen here throughout the entire season. And we've seen, Ruben put on poles after poles back in Bahrain and also in Melbourne. So the fact that he's done it in this situation, especially in such a short track, makes all the more impressive for the German.
At Bahrain, the pole time for him was just 42 thousandths of a second ahead of Fournier and only 82 ahead of Zux. In fact, the gap that he has first to second in this round covered the top 5 at the Bahrain Grand Prix, and it covered first and second, at least at Australia in the last round, just less than 2 tenths between. And that's definitely an improvement going on and on and on in this 2025 season. I wonder just how much practice Ruben Mercedes is putting in before these races. I suspect that it is quite a lot, and this is a real big target for him to try and win the World Championship in 2025, as it will be for the likes of Mark Schluter, who's gone out to this big lead, but also a load of other contenders who are only 4 points behind, within 4 points of Mercedes, by the way, in second. Tom Oldemega, Jeffrey Fournier and Sander Callis. It's still a pretty wide open season.
Yeah, Callis has done pretty good, even though he's got third. He's still within the back end of Ruben Maché that will hold the pole. But Oldemega, as you mentioned before, very strong race pace, but has never managed to quite translate here in the form of qualifying. And now he's going to be starting off from that back row, and it's going to be very hard for him to navigate for the front. But we have seen the Dutchman manage to claw it from the field many times before, so the chance of him to get some very valuable points is still up there.
Absolutely. Top 10 get points in top 15, sorry. F1 mode. Top 15 get points in the FSR World Championship should keep the whole of the field actually interested to the very end of the day. Certainly did at the likes of Australia and some of the other rounds this season, where we've had roughly 16 entries to every round so far this season. And that's the way that it stayed in time for the Austrian Grand Prix as well. Big question is all going to be about how can you get past Ruben Mercedes, how can you beat Ruben Mercedes over the course of a race distance. But in the early part of the race, the slipstream and staying with him in that sense is going to be the real key, you would say, for Mark Schluter and some of the others as well who are going to want to stay with Mercedes. Slipstream, kept the DRS early on as well, and that will really help you get at least on terms with Mercedes early on in the race.
Yeah, see as well with the high track temperatures, the softs is going to be really, really hard in order to manage, especially with the 71 laps that are going to be here upon us. And for Ruben Maché and for Mark Schluter, you have to think about between those two if they're going to either push early on or they're going to push later on. That's going to be the case. Then we have seen before with people that push earlier on, the DRS, the 3 DRS straights that we see here in Spielberg is enough to carry through for the people that push early on. So that's going to be a very interesting equation for both Schluter, and even Sander Callis just behind to evaluate just before the race starts.
Let's see how they get on as we get towards the end of warm up, which is the session that we're in at the moment. By the way, looking forward to the Austrian Grand Prix. As I mentioned earlier, the summer break, effectively, if you can call it that, will be up next. It's 5 weeks until the next round of the championship. It'll be the British Grand Prix on the 14th of September. And then after that, it is pretty much every 2 weeks from then on to the very end of the season. 3-week break between Singapore and the USA. But other than that, it's, and indeed between 9 and 10 as well, Japan and Mexico. The last couple of rounds of the championship are separated by a few weeks as well. However, it is it is basically 2 weeks upon 2 weeks after that. The checker flag does wave in this warm-up session. A relentless end to the season, and that's not really a great thing, I don't think, for a championship leader trying to hold on to a championship lead, especially if the momentum just goes away. And I wonder whether that momentum is just started to go away from Mark Schluter. I know he only lost a few points in the previous round at Australia because he did still finish in second, but it's very symbolic that for the first time all season, last round, that he was beaten at Australia.
Yeah, I think so, and I think it might be a bit of a shock to him, but as well, with Ruven Machete's really impressive qualifying performance, I think he's sort of been translating that much better into race pace now. Of course, he had his DNF back in Bahrain, so he was already way off the back foot from Mark Schluter back then, and even though the standings looks like Ruven Machete is in a fight with Oldemir, Fournier and Callas, on track it hasn't really been the case. He's always been more or less on the top step, trying to fight with, with the Autumnal drivers and Schluter and co, and he's done very, very well. I think with Schluter just needs to try and keep hold of that momentum, because it's only going to be, as you mentioned before, a summer break, and that momentum can halter, maybe change between that, extended break. So Machete needs to try and do everything to push it into his favor, and Schluter needs to try and rescue his effectively after Melbourne.
Well, we'll see how he gets on, because that qualifying session was an absolute marker being put down by Ruven Machete, who takes his third pole position of his career, and indeed this season. And that's 2 in a row now as well for the first time. First time a driver's managed that in 2025, 2 in a row. So driver's still going around, by the way. Must be waiting on something at the moment in this warm-up session before we go to the race, because that checker flag has been out for a little while now. But I think as we obviously I think everybody's in the session, but anyway.
Oh no.
There you go. There's another car going around. I mean, they will have taken the checker flag multiple times. We're just waiting for the session to get thrown forward into the race. But last round, we were waiting for someone to join the session in time for the race so they could start at the back. But that doesn't seem to be the case this time. We're just hanging about. So added tension for the drivers as well.
Yeah, added tension for Schluter and Machete in the front row. Maybe this will pander in Callas's favor if he wins the race. It's like, oh, the warm-ups helped me won.
Yeah, it was him last time as well. He clearly knows what to do. There's a Vega Valley eSports drive going past as well. They're also, I guess that those that were here last round will know and be familiar with this happening and think, well, it might be just an advantage to carry on going around in warm-up. I often talk about the fact that it doesn't really matter warm-up in these sessions, especially when you just had qualifying. But it's being used by a few of these drivers at the moment to drive around, and yeah, we'll just continue to wait here for this race. Yeah, we're going to be it's going to be a very quick race. Not sure how quick last time we were here. Maybe just over an hour and 15, something hour and 20. We saw some certainly longer races, especially at Malaysia. Actually, that was a bit of a longer race. Bahrain as well. But Australia last round and this one as well, going to be very, very quick races because the circuits are a little bit quicker. Of course, distances, the races are done on the kilometres travelled rather than the amount of time it might take. So kilometres travelled just take a little bit quicker around this circuit, for example. There we go. That looks like everybody being thrown into the race session. So yeah, we should be able to get underway, of course, in a few minutes' time. But the starting grid and the warm-up lap, of course, will be yet to come as well.
Yeah, absolutely. 71 laps are going to be slowly upon us here for the Red Bull Ring. It can really go any ways. Expect to see maybe a two-stop strategy. I think that'll probably be key, and I don't see many drivers going to utilize the soft compounds here. I think the mediums and the hards are definitely the way to go, especially as we mentioned before on how hot the track is. I think putting on the softs would be an absolute killer. But yeah, I'm really excited for this.
Yeah, very much looking forward to seeing what happens in this latest round of the championship. So the drivers get themselves into the grid in a moment. Here they are. Just faffing about a little bit, getting themselves ready and figuring out their strategy. We'll go through the tyre compounds once it settles down in the race, but it's not always so reliable on the formation lap for us to see who's put on what tyre set. So we'll just hold off on that. But the drivers now get underway. And the formation lap is now upon us. Look at that, by the way. That just shows you, doesn't it, the dominance that Optimino have had in this qualifying session. I think all of their cars in the top 7. A great effort from them, and maybe a help to Machete as well, if one of their teammates can get in the way of Mark Schluter somehow.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we're seeing really, really good, strong qualified performance here from Optimal, and this is actually going to go so much into Ruben's favor in regards to which strategy he wants to go on. But also with Pascal, Fournier, Such, and Single just behind can apply that pressure onto Callas and Schluter in third and second, especially whenever they're on different strategies.
Just ignore the left-hand side of the tower for the moment in terms of tyre compound. It will continue to change around right up until the start of this race, but then we'll start to figure out a little bit more about what's going on. As you say, track temperature has not declined really since the qualifying session. It has a little bit, dipped below 44 degrees Celsius, but I don't know myself, but you've got to imagine that's going to have a pretty big effect on tyre temperatures here, and the way with which these guys can actually get around the circuit. It's going to be a lot more difficult over the whole of the race distance to keep these tyres in the right temperature frame. It's maybe less so about the actual wear, it's the actual temperature of the tyre getting out of control, which is a big concern.
Yeah, absolutely. Going side by side through this corner, especially if you're maybe the second sector with the long stretches of 5, 6, 7, and then maybe even 9 and 10 are now even overtaking opportunities anyways. But 6 and 7, definitely, if you're going side by side for there, it's going to be really, really detrimental towards your tire degradation, and especially for the people that are running on hards against the people that are running on, the mediums that are running against hards, they're going to find that deficit like really dip down and just fall off a cliff.
Well, they'll try and use it at the start to make up those positions and then maybe hold on to them, but that might be a bit more difficult than what it was at Australia just one round ago, where track position was absolutely key. Let's see, though, as the 16 drivers of the Formula SimRacing World Championship get themselves onto the starting grid, ready for the start of the 2025 Austrian Grand Prix. Back at the Red Bull Ring for the first time in 9 years. The lights go out now here at Spielberg, and we are underway for 71 laps of racing. And Mercedes immediately pulls in front of its championship rival Mark Schluter in towards turn number 1. And Mercedes leads. Callas round the outside of Schluter as well. It's going to be side by side for second place here. And Mercedes is going to give the slipstream to Callas here. He wants Callas to make this place, but Schluter is quicker on the inside, and he's got the braking on the way towards turn 3. Here we go. Tight hairpin. Callas pushed out wide. Oh, and there's contact as Bragstock tried to go through as well. They're all tied up there, and Patrick Hanko's made a great start. Here comes Jeffrey Fournier as well. Hanko dipping left and right. He looks up the inside. He's not going to get through there. He's up to 4th though, and he's challenging Callas now into the middle sector.
Absolutely incredible. This will make it go team 2-3 as it stands. He does make it. Hanko up into 3rd.
Wow. And that's massive for Mark Schluter. You looked at the way that the Optimal guys were all around him to begin with this race, but now look, all of the GOAT, or one of his GOAT team teammates anyway, has been able to get up to him. And here comes Fournier trying to help Mercedes. Inside line of Callas, of course, trying to help himself as well. Inside the final corner, and Fournier up to 4th.
Wow, great overtake there by Fournier. Callas just gone a bit off from 9 and 10. As soon as it's off the line, you can just see him wiggle really hard to control your car outside the racing line. Oh, he's gone a bit wide for turn 1. Is this going to allow for Brashok to maybe make a move?
Certainly going to have the better exit here as Callas is going backwards. Maybe those hard tyres were a bad decision. Maybe they'll come back to help him a little bit later on, but he seems to be the only one inside the top 12 on the hards. And there goes Bragstock down the inside. Maybe this is going to be a common occurrence in the first few laps of this race.
Yeah, I think so too. I think Callas on the hards is going to see him drop back to a lot where you might see Such and Single trying to make their moves respectively. But at least Callas is going to try and bring on a fight to gain a couple more positions. But have to see here.
And through into the middle sector, Prosciutto still in front of Mancini. Tom Oldemeng has gone backwards actually, but as I say, he's on the hard tyres as well. Unlike his teammate, clever and sensible of Megaval eSports to try and split strategies there between Mancini and Oldemeng. Single file though through the final couple of corners. End of lap 2, and Ruben Mercedes leads by over a second. Mark Schluter holds second by over a second as well. Those top podium places already getting relative, well, I don't want to say secure, but those gaps are getting large for lap 2.
I think we're seeing someone going off. That is Hanko's teammate Marcel. We see Single's gone a bit wide. That would have Lasse Yatten to get up into 8th.
Just got on the curb, I think, and slid out. There goes Lattinen through on the way towards the turn 3 hairpin. Good overtake from him, driving for the MV Conquest team alongside Lucas Viscott here. Scott yet to have a top 10 yet this season, currently running down in 15th place where he's been most of the season. This is Jeffrey Fournier just in behind Patrick Hanko. What a job he's doing for his teammate here, Hanko. This is very, very ideal for Mark Suter. And for Fournier, not only for his race, but also Mercedes as well. He's got to get past as quickly as he can.
Yep, to target yourself forwards behind rather than up ahead is going to give Mercedes the breather. But look how fast he is compared to championship leader Schluter. It is already 1.4 seconds in just lap 3.
Yeah, exactly. We saw it a quarter of a second in qualifying. If that continues on over the course of the race, he'll be leading this race by half a minute by the end. That's not quite going to go on, I wouldn't have thought, over the course of 71 laps. But he is already leading by a second and a half, and that would be ahead of schedule if he's going to win by half a minute. I don't think that's going to happen. I think Suter's going to give him a right run for his money over the course of a race distance. But for now, it's a big lead. Here comes Zingel. Oh, off on the grass, actually, as he tried to come through there on Lattinen. It was a mistake that Zingel lost that place. He's got it back again now with a good bit of drafting down the back straight there.
Yep, brilliant move there from turn 2. Exactly what Zingel needs to try and get himself up with his up-to-now teammates ahead. And Yasser Lattinen try and have a look down for turn 4. He's overcooked it, I think, just a little bit. That allowed for Zalayanis to go side by side here for the second sector. Through 5 they go. It's still going to be going side by side. Think about the tyre, where that might be. Yes, he does. He slides back down. Zalayanis still in 10th.
Good racing so far, but it's all further down the back end of the field. Here it is. Here's some more. Viscott and Oldermenger. That's Viscott getting past Tom Oldermenger. So the man third place in the Drivers' Championship at the moment. Tom Oldermenger seems to be really struggling here in Austria so far. I mentioned he's on the hard tyres, and that's fair enough, but Cedric Bill and Lucas Viscott are both beating him quite easily at the moment on that same strategy.
Yeah, positioned lower in the standings as well, so this is going to be much to their favour, not to Oldermengers, who's still going to get his Squinsport position, but he will record his lowest result if this stands.
6th place is his previous worst, but 15th place at the moment. That's a long way back from him. There's Zoksuks just in behind Sander Callas, and Callas has just started to stop the bleeding here. Early on, he lost a lot of places because he was on those hard compound tyres, but that seems to be normalising out a little bit now.
Yeah, so it's done. I honestly think Callas has done really well to fend off from, Sengo and Such just behind and on the hards and compared to the mediums. So, but at least the good thing with Callas is that since he's able to run for a bit longer, we can maybe see whenever they'll cross off in about maybe 10 or so laps, 10 or 15 laps, and we can see Callas maybe getting up some positions. So it's just going to be very important to see where he'll place his car to defend and just hold it in for the time being, and then hopefully can gain some more positions.
He's got to just play the patient game, but we know that Sander Callas can absolutely do that. He's 5th place in the Drivers' Championship coming into today, 4th place in the last 2 races in a row. He made his World Championship debut, by the way, over 10 years ago, at the Chinese Grand Prix. That made his first full season appearance, though, in 2018, when he did all but 2 of the races. Indeed, scored a 6th place on the Brazilian Grand Prix as his best result, the Brazilian Grand Prix of 2018. Has been as high as 2nd in the past. That's his best finish. That came, I think, 1st at the Brazilian Grand Prix of 2017, all the way back. And he's still looking to get that race win, but this is as good a season as any for him to get a race win. And it would be massive for him to do it here, given the fact he's on a different strategy and Mercedes speed. But at least he's sort of found a place in the group where he can hold. Now we'll just keep an eye on him to see when he starts to hold the advantage over these medium tyres. How long is it going to take for that to actually turn around?
I probably think it'll be around 12 or so laps, as we've seen before, and maybe the Pro. But, with Callas as well, with this strategy, and if he keeps on stuck to it, and at least don't wear it too much when fighting with these medium runners, then, he could be eyeing for his first podium here this season.
Yeah, absolutely. He's not bizarrely been on the podium yet, as you say. 4th place, though, in the last 2. In fact, only 5 drivers have been on the podium so far, which is an unusually low number after 3 rounds in a sort of new era season, which is what this really is in 2025. We have got a number of new names getting their first race victories. Mark Suter and Ruben Mercedes with their first World Championship victories here this season. And only 5 drivers on the podium, which is a little bit odd. In the background there, Mark Suter over 2 seconds now behind Ruben Mercedes, but look at the pressure he's coming under here from Patrick Hanko. Not necessarily from him, but it's who's behind Hanko. And it's Fournier and Braxock who are queuing up behind.
Yeah, but it's a good cushion though for Go Team at least to have Hanko in that position. If Hanko wasn't, then Schluter would definitely be feeling the pressure. But at least with Fournier and Bashkok has now got Hanko and Schluter to deal with. So for Schluter, it's a bit of a relief because he's his teammate's more or less of a cushion, right, to help push the deficit. And you can just see there.
Look at the draft and slipstream in DRS trade, whatever it's called. He's creating third, fourth, fifth, sixth and seventh, all in the DRS of the driver in front of them. And it's not 1 second like it is in Formula 1, it's 7/10 of a second, as that's Callis' teammate, Zalagianis, trying to get past Lattinen, who was briefly past Single, but that was clearly a higher position than he was able to hold. He's now lost 8th, and now he loses 9th as well. Yesterday, Lattinen now down to 10th position as George Zalagianis did what looks like a bit of a cutback there on the way down towards Slosgård at turn 4.
Yeah, you can see Cosmos while plying through the second sector to see if Lasse Lattinen might be making more. You can just see how he's a little bit waywards through the second sector, but Zalagianis, a very good move through turn 4 to get up into 9th, so that makes ground effect 6th and 9th, which is really, really strong for them, especially where Zalagianis was earlier on.
This is out onto the front straight again, and great to see, by the way, especially after the Australian Grand Prix, that overtaking so possible, so frequent around this circuit. Absolutely fantastic to watch. Although in this group, nothing quite happening yet. You just sense it sort of bubbling away at the moment, and it's all going to explode a little bit later on into some real action here for second position, because that's what the race is really for at the moment. Mercedes is controlling that lead.
Yeah, he is, and it's really scarily how well he is controlling that lead compared to championship leader Schluter as well. 2.5 seconds, and does not seem any slight of slowing down at all, and is really good at managing the tires. Schluter himself doesn't even have the DRS and has to be wary of Hanko, Fournier and Brashkot behind, and in fact even Callis and Such and Single also joining along that fight. So I think Schluter's doing very well to hold that in, but he also knows that Hanko is there for him, so they just need to see where they can go from here.
Absolutely. The whole field still covered by less than 30 seconds, right the way down to Marsa, who is the last driver in the field in 16th. Really steering the race though, and no crashes so far at the Austrian Grand Prix as we go on to lap 10, so it's a good start to the race. No actual spins on lap 1 either, no calamities down towards turn 1, so that was a good start to the day, certainly. Up the road there, that was Hanko getting quite close to Schluter, and I get the feeling Hanko's in quite an awkward situation actually. He's so close behind Mark Schluter that it almost looks like he could make the move if it wasn't his teammate, but he almost can't go past him because it's the championship leader and of course their teammates as well.
Yeah, I think for them, getting a podium is probably more important than them having needed to fight out, because Fournier and Brashkok are also behind. Callis is also behind. I think it just makes sense for Hanko to stay behind Schluter for now. If they do swap positions, it's definitely going to be tactical and strategical in Schluter and Hanko's favour. The team definitely wants them to both score podiums here, so I reckon they're just not going to fight and just hold off for now.
Into the final couple of corners again. Schluter, just as I've said that, maybe got out to about a second or so. Has he broken the slipstream now? Not the slipstream, sorry, the DRS. We'll find out on the next straight, of course. You can see on the track map on the bottom right-hand side of your screen, the green sections are where the long green lines along the circuit are where the DRS is. No, Hanko's still got it. And that's the detection line. You can see the short lines that are perpendicular to the road. The green lines perpendicular to the road. The black lines are the sectors here at this racetrack. Tom Oldemanga is growing into this race, and the Vega Valley eSports driver is looking for 13th position here. Cedric Bill going on the defensive, down in towards turn 3. He is on the outside, cutback required. No, Bill actually holds the inside rather nicely there, preventing the cutback from happening, and so Oldemanga is just going to go right round the outside and get the exit instead. More DRS down this second straight in towards turn 4. This is where it gets tight as a side-by-side battle, and on the outside Oldemanga holds that position there. That's where he needs to be, ready for the next two left-handers, and it should be where he stays to go 13th. There you go, Oldemanga definitely growing into this race.
Yeah, brilliant move there by Tom. He's really getting accumulated down to this track and to his tyres now, and has shot back down as low as 15th, has now recovered back to 13th, so very good there from Tom.
As I mentioned earlier, the third place driver in the Formula SimRacing World Championship for 2025, and he is looking to rescue himself really. Go back to Schluter. who just seems to be struggling a little bit more around here compared to Mercedes. As I mentioned, is this a bit of a momentum change we're seeing now between these two? Mercedes with the Australian Grand Prix, Sluter losing for the first time this season. Well, maybe that has just changed the momentum, changed the dynamic in this series, because all of a sudden Ruf Mercedes looking ultra strong out front.
Yep, you were talking about the momentum that we had and how Shooter has almost lost it a little bit coming from Melbourne. Well, this seems to be like an absolute game changer in Reuven and Optimal's favour. If the way that this stands for Reuven to be 3.5 seconds almost ahead of Mark, and Mark is just looking around to see what exactly can be done. Of course, Hanko is definitely there to make sure that he gets the podium, but even though when that was nearly a second gap and was breaking off the DRS train, Hanko's now pressuring him.
Absolutely, and as I mentioned earlier, so awkward when this is your teammate in a championship fight, but you know you're quicker than them. Wonder whether Hanko would be able to get ahead and drive up the road if this was a completely free situation for Patrick Hanko. But at the moment, he's sort of imprisoned in this third place. Jeffrey Fournier as well. He's getting ever closer, and as the pressure begins to build on Hanko, that in turn builds on Sluter as well. This is not a nice place to be for Patrick Hanko, alongside, of course, the guys involved in the championship fight overall here. Hanko is in a really awkward position.
Yeah, absolutely. You can just imagine as well for George Fournier, down in fourth, really wants to try and get into another podium into his books. The only time he didn't score a podium was when he DNF'd. So he's trying to hope to keep that record on for every time he finishes his race, he scores a podium. And the lowest that he's finished on track was third. So he's got some pressure onto Hanko to do. But you got to imagine for Hanko, it's between a rock and a hard place, because can't really overtake or attack your teammate, but also you don't want to let Fournier go. So it just needs to attack sensibly and defend aggressively.
To turn one, Fournier super close again to Hanko, but when the driver in front of you has the DRS and the slipstream of the driver in front of them, it does get a little bit more difficult. It gets a little bit more like Australia, where it was much more difficult to overtake at that very, very high-speed circuit. It's, of course, a high-speed circuit as well, but the corners are less high-speed than what you get at Australia these days. It's certainly a tyre shredder. At the end of this lap, by the way, will be 1/5 of the way through the race distance already, 60 kilometres of the 300 roughly to completed, and that doesn't sound like a very long way, but it's been clipped off very, very quickly, I've got to say, and it's really no closer to finding out who's going to be getting one step ahead in this race, really, other than Ruf Mercedes, of course, who has dominated so far. Now leads by 3 3/4 seconds. He is roughly going, by the way, faster than the rest at the pace that he did in qualifying, roughly a quarter of a second a lap.
I wonder if he keeps this up, he'll be able to pit maybe 7 or 6 seconds clear of Schluter, which in that case that'll be really mightily impressive. But look at there, because of the amount of defense that Hanko and Schluter will more or less have done, and Fournier has just been, trying to catch up, but he's got himself just enough of breathing room between himself and Brashok, but Brashok under pressure from Callas.
In turn, Callas is growing into this race a little bit as well. You can see him quite close behind Braxok, as you say. But again, when you have the slipstream and the DRS to the driver in front, it makes it very, very difficult. So what does Callas do in this situation? I guess maybe saves the tyres and waits for the medium runners to come in, but that feels like a bit of a waste of these hard tyres, which do look like they're getting stronger now than these wearing mediums.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's just the overtake that needs to make onto Brashok and Fournier. If he does ever get to catch up to those two, it's just more or less to make it quick and easy. So for turn 1 or turn 3 is probably Callas's best bet, and you'll be trying to see he'll look to eye for it. I think going for the second sector, especially on those hards, will be as detrimental to Brashok and Fournier as Callas, but at least Callas will be able to afford it, whilst Brashok and Fournier can't.
And in towards the final corner, the first corner, sorry. Callas again close on the way in, but I'm not sure close enough on the way out, particularly as they now run down the hill and then back up again on the way towards Ramus corner. This circuit, of course, used to be way more up in the hills. This venue to be a bit more high speed as well. The Red Bull Ring, so of course, wasn't called that then. Much changed over the years, as so many modern racetracks are. Not an overly technical racetrack, I think it's fair to say, but it is an exciting one to go racing at, that is for sure. Schluter at the moment is trying to do as little racing as he possibly can, at least wheel to wheel with anybody else. Hanko still behind him. Fournier and then Braxtock again. And in hindsight, as this race goes on, the more I think what a good job it is from Patrick Hanko to get into third, because Schluter will be getting attacked all which ways at the moment by someone who's not on his team.
Yeah, I agree, and I think it gives Schluter a lot more of a relaxed position himself to hold on to second, because he knows he doesn't need to push as much as he can, because of Schluter's gone wide out of turn 1, so I wonder if that's the sign of the mediums running, or if he was just a bit distracted, but that's not very good for the German.
Well, he's trying to stay out of the slipstream there, Hanko, and almost a show of defence there from Schluter, as if to say, don't try and go past me, please, stay there, because Hanko there was staying out of the slipstream just, I think, to try and negate the advantage, the run that he had a little bit there. Doesn't actually want to make the overtake, so he was just pulling out the slipstream, but Schluter almost thought he was trying to get in the mirrors, get into his head a little bit. I'm not sure, maybe I'm misreading that as we go back to 9th place. Lahtinen is coming back again after being passed by George Argianis about 10 laps ago. He's now back to the man in 9th place. And these guys are much more likely to race wheel to wheel as well, as we saw a little bit earlier on.
Yep, Zalayanis up in the top 10 of the standings, and he's trying to keep that regular point scoring position onto his books, but it's done pretty good. But yes, Lahtinen trying to look back from, as you said, the position that he's lost, and Cosmo just outside of the top 10, but he's been constantly first for all race long. Maybe he's trying to look for an opening there for the SA. Still up 18 out of 71. Very exciting so far.
It's just bubbling away, isn't it? You can tell that this race is going to explode into life a little bit later on this afternoon. Not quite had the full story, and here we go. Hanko and Schluter. That looked coordinated between the CMT Go Team Racing drivers, but has Schluter made his own bed here for Geoffrey Fournier to get past him on the way down towards turn 4? Fournier's got to try and strike, but Schluter uses everything he's got on the way towards turn 4 to make sure he keeps third place. He had to make sure that worked there. He had to keep this position. And in his own way had to strike. Maybe he still will. Into the middle sector he has a look, but he won't go through.
That's so close. I think Schluter Hanko did need to make that move onto 3 to have Hanko in the turn of leading the DRS train. I think Schluter has probably done enough, and that almost went hellware for Schluter as with under the pressure from Fournier. But wow, Fournier really gave it his all there. But to no avail, though, he still holds on to 4th.
It was very, very close, but Fournier couldn't strike when the iron was hot there, and look at the way Hanko's getting away now. This is trouble potentially for Mark Schluter in this race. Not sure what possessed them to make that switch at that very moment, I must say. But would have made more sense if Schluter came into the pit lane last time or something, but no, he didn't. Carries on, and Fournier will now be the one to he's just been invited basically to put some pressure on the Go Team Racing driver in front. So not entirely sure why they decided to make that switch at all, because they were sort of they were fine as they were, really. Mancini meanwhile comes into the pit lane. This could trigger quite a few stops.
Yep, that's the first medium road heading to the pit, so I reckon in about 3 or so we're going to see the other medium roads headed, and then you also can see with Callas as well, really starting to take it to his element, starting to pressure onto Bashak just a little bit, and was still within the DRS train, so we can expect to see him pressuring Bashak a bit more and more, as we're going to soon see some people heading to the pits very soon, as George Fournier just for the final 2 corners. I think not quite enough pressure into Schluter, but again, that was a very, very close call that we just seen half a lap prior.
More little snaps out of the final corner so many times tonight so far. We have seen that out of the final corner here at the Red Bull Ring. Another driver who has to strike now really is Sander Callas, because he's clearly got better tyres now than those in front of him, but he's just not able to get through. Again, the fact that they're in this slipstream train is not really helping him. But maybe if the hard tyres are sort of the bad stint, if you like, Callas sticking with these guys is a good thing. If he can do maybe 2 medium tyre runs to the end and maybe be quicker than some of the others, then maybe this is an advantage to him that he's got these hard tyres out of the way in the traffic while nobody else is going any quicker anyway, rather than running on their own as they might be later on.
Yeah, exactly. He is effectively running medium compound laps on hard tires, and that's going to really improve to Callas's favour, and it might be exactly what he needs to and what he is looking for. He did drop down as expected, but at least it didn't drop back down so much that he's out of the DRS train from that. So, yeah.
There's Fournier again out the final corner. to complete lap 20, and Ruben Mercedes in. That's a bit of a surprise. He was coming out of a position of complete isolation to put himself into traffic and make his first tyre change of the day. 51 laps to go for the race leader of the Austrian Grand Prix. Luckily for him, Zalagianis, Prosciutto and Lehtinen follow each other in, kind of inexplicably, and Tom Oldenmenger carries on. Unless Oldenmenger's doing a one-stop, he's very much behind where he needs to be. But Mercedes gets out into a load of clean air. That was fraught with risk, but it's worked. And clearly that calculation has been made by Mercedes, who's out in a load of clear air, as it turns out.
Yeah, good. That was a good move there from Optimal to pit themselves this early. Although it's a bit of a surprise they did pit them this early. With how far ahead that he has been leading, I am not at all surprised they have made him come this early. As you see here, Fournier just a little bit sideways through the second sector, out through entering to the third, and still applying the pressure onto Schluter. But you got to imagine how the rest of them as follows, and that's Vishkot and Singo going side by side. Oh no, Vishkot's gone off!
Off into turn 4, and that could be the end of the day for Lucas Vishkot. He's had a very difficult season so far. Contact on the way down the straight, on the way towards turn 4. He loses his front wing, and that's the first incident we've seen today. But unfortunately for Lucas Vishkot, his best finishing position of 13th looks like it's not going to be beaten here today. That was a rather bizarre incident on the straight there.
Yeah, you must think of the impact and the damage that has collided with the wall. Will not be surprised at all if there was suspension damage there, and nearly took out Zolch with them as well. So right down the pecking order he goes. He's very lucky to have not lost a tire, albeit only just his front wing, and into the pits the every Conquest driver goes.
Callas now ahead of Fournier, so that pass has been made for the lead as Hanko, Schluter, Braxock all come into the pit lane. They've seen the clear air, I suppose, that Mercedes ended up in, and they've gone for it. Hanko's gone for mediums, though. Schluter still on the hards, or putting on the hards, I should say. Down the inside goes Prosciutto. He gets past Latson, and suddenly this race springs into life, just about at the 1/3 distance of the Austrian Grand Prix, taking place for the first time in the Formula Sim Racing World Championship for 9 long years, and it's starting to deliver 9 years worth of action now in the middle part of this race. Prosciutto gets ahead of Latson. He's now just behind Zalagianis. Callas carries on, no surprise there, but the optimal teammates of Fournier and Zooks follow one another in.
Yep, they're following through Ruben Mercedes' lap pits at just 2 laps of a go, and they're going to definitely follow suit and again take advantage of the clean air. But we have to see Ruben Mercedes into second, and has done very, very good to climb the gap now. It's 13 seconds between himself and Callas.
Yeah, so that's not a pit stop gap, that's for sure. Just keep an eye on Hanko as well and how close he can get to Mercedes with those mediums on. He's the only one so far on the mediums inside the top 10. Now Callas might change that when he pits, but might well not pit for a little while yet. Wonder if he's going to stretch it long enough to be trying a one-stop here. And say for Tom Oldenmenger, actually, who's got up to 3rd place. Is Oldenmenger going to really stretch this set of tyres out, or is he going to come back to sensible land and do a 2-stop in a few moments? Here comes Prosciutto. Been kind of shown the outside there by Zalagianis, but the inside was still open. Side by side, bit of contact. Prosciutto has to get this done because he's on better tyres, the better compound here, and it looks like he will get it done through turn 5. There's turn 6, and he does have that 11th place.
That was so close. Could have ended in an absolute disaster through turn 4 and again through turn 6, but Vishkot comes out up on top, and Zalagianis left to defend his position from Latinen.
Oh no, Latinen doesn't come in. So they carry on again to these leading drivers. Well, these not leading drivers, these are the leading drivers. And there's Hanko getting past Oldenmenger. There's no surprise. New mediums versus older hards. It'd be very interesting to see how much resistance Oldenmenger puts onto someone who is on his compound of tyre, like Mark Schluter, who will be catching him in the next few moments.
Yeah, but fresher tyres for Schluter to Oldenmenger. At least Oldenmenger will have a better chance though. But good there from Hanko to make an overtake that quick into turn 3, especially in the mediums. He can't really go side by side that often. So we'll keep a track and eye on him as he still holds on to, gets up to 3rd.
Yep, so that should be 2nd place later, but for now, 3rd place for Patrick Hanko. And there's Latinen trying to follow Prosciutto through on George Zalagianis, who is in that 12th position. Over the line again for Mercedes. Then Hanko. Oldenmenger now only 7 tenths in front of Mark Schluter, who's only got Brax up behind. So the pressure on the championship leader is certainly less. And the fact that he's got a team out in front of him now is a very interesting one as well. I wonder whether Hanko's almost been sent ahead here to try and mess up with Ruben Mercedes out front. But let's see. Here comes Sluter meantime. He's not waiting around. And Oldemanga doesn't defend too much, although that was quite deep from Sluter. He really sent that one in. And maybe didn't need to. There goes Zingle past Cedric Bill. That should be no surprise. Will Oldemanga come back again on Sluter down towards turn 4? The answer is no. His tyres won't be up to it. So that was a pretty aggressive move from Sluter, who's pushing on here in this second stint of the race.
Yep, too deep. That would have almost jeopardized his overtake through turn 3, and exactly didn't really want to be going side by side for the second sector. So at least he managed to rescue it with his compound advantage, and Oldemanga can't really do much to defend on those worn hards, I'm afraid.
There's Braxshot going to have to do the same. This would be a natural bit of gap creation for Mark Sluter, as the others get stuck behind Oldemanga, even if it's just for a lap. He can get out of the DRS in the slipstream and at least shore up third place. If that's all he can do here, then he's doing a good job of it in this race so far. As Oldemanga now in this 5th position continues on the racing line. He's going to be fair to everybody here, and he lets Janusz Braxshot go through. That says to me that Oldemanga nevertheless is on a 2-stop strategy here, and he's not really worrying about these guys because they're not in his race and they're on very, very different ends of their hard tyre stints.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially when he started off from the hards early on, and the fact that he's up into 6, so that means we can expect a pit stop from him maybe in about 3 or 4 laps or so, and maybe he could really either go 2 ways, either the mediums or the hards. I think any way can be in Oldemanga's favour, but just keeping a track on for the mediums though, and just seeing how well they progress, looking through Hanko in his relation to Machete. He's only got just about a handful of laps to see if he can do anything to claw up that deficit, or within a breather room to maybe make it overtake on Machete. But look at Machete though, in the span of 6 laps has managed to claw 3 seconds between himself and Callas, so I think Callas maybe be overtaken very soon. We'll have to see though. But look at this, Fournier is on the back of Oldemanga.
Yeah, he's very close here, Fournier, and Zooks is going to queue up as well. If Fournier is going to get through, then I think Zooks is going to want to follow. Let's see though, as they come down the back straight now. Oldemanga forced to the right-hand side. Actually, he got alongside Fournier so early that Oldemanga couldn't stay on the racing line. There, coming down the inside goes Zooks as well. I told you he wanted to follow through, and Oldemanga lets it happen. Knows that this is not his battle for the moment, and he can enjoy a bit of DRS down the next straight. There is Pasuto and Bill. They're on different compounds as well, so they'll be very nice to each other. And it's all very nice at the moment. All the passes for position are fairly nicely being coordinated between the various different drivers.
Yeah, absolutely, especially amongst their own teams as well. Needs to make it, easy and compatible, and just turn 3 seems to be the best place to make the overtakes or these position swaps, as we see Jesse Lehtinen on the back of Cedric.
Yeah, this is another difference in tyre compound, so Cedric Bill should lose this place fairly comfortably and fairly quickly to Jesse Lehtinen. So let's see though, as they now come through the 2 right-handers. A little bit of a wider entry here for Lehtinen, who's got so much more grip. You can just see the way he's having to hold himself back through those 2 corners. Gets into the draft inside turn 1, no. That's a bit of a dangerous place to do it. So he's going to wait for the exit. Here we go. He's almost on top of him coming out of the corner, never mind into the next braking zone. And there he goes. That will be 10th now, because Tom Oldemanga comes in as well for a set of medium compound tyres.
Okay, that's pretty interesting. But again, we have seen the mediums gone really, really fast in what we've seen previously. So it makes sense for Oldemanga to go into the mediums, and I think that means he's definitely going to be on for a 2-stop there. Zalayanis looking down maybe for the inside of Cedric. Yes, he does. Is it going to make it quick? Yes, he does. Very good move there from Zalayanis up into 11th.
So just straight through Zalayanis. He wants to follow Lehtinen through as well as quickly as possible. And just as Oldemanga is coming, Sander Callas does as well. Now this is a really crucial pit stop and a crucial few moments in this race for Sander Callas, who I believe has he come to a stop and changed his tyres? Yes, it looks like he has already. So there go all of the guys he was racing with before, but he hasn't waited too long to allow the guys who weren't in the group before to get ahead of him. So Zinger will still be behind as Callas goes out on another set of white-walled hard compound tyres.
That's a very interesting there. This is between Jeffrey Fournier and Brashkak up ahead. The battle for fourth, and also with Zoltsuch just behind. It's going to be a three-way optimal fight. But the question is, will they allow them to fight in these hards?
Well, it's probably not the best idea to actually race through one another. At the moment, they're on course for 4th, 5th and 6th, and would lose ground in the team's championship to Go Team as things stand. Got to find a way to get on terms with Mark Schluter here and get past him. 2.5 seconds the gap, but Schluter has played this really, really well. I questioned the call to allow Hanko past at the time, but at the moment, it's looking like a stroke of genius between those two.
It does actually, and with the Hanko maybe catch up to Reuven, I'm wondering if it'll be enough of a battle for Reuven and Hanko to fight that might allow for Schluter to maybe claw back up. So very good there for the Go Team Racing to actually allow Hanko and Schluter to swap, especially when I think Hanko manages the mediums much better than Schluter does from what we've seen previously.
Very good thinking so far from those guys. And second and third would be a great reward for the day, where Schluter has seemed to struggle a little bit more than, especially compared to Macheda, than what he has in any other round so far. Even in Australia, the last round, which of course he finished second to Macheda in, wasn't a gap like this, although the gap is only 6 seconds now, admittedly, now that the strategy is all coming into play. We're on board with Zoltsuch. Again, these guys are going to be nice to each other, I think, Braxok, Fournier and Zux. But there is the question about whether Braxok is actually the quickest of the three and whether he should be leading the trio.
Yeah, that's a pretty good point, but it's very hard to decipher here between these optimal eSport drivers. They're more or less equal on pace. I think Istvan Spiegel's just been a bit unlucky from the start up there to not join along with this train. But again, we've seen the qualifying performances that are incredibly strong here in this track.
Reuven Macheda, of course, the pick of the bunch for Optimal at the moment. He leads by 3 seconds over Patrick Hanko. Mark Schluter, 6.5 back to this battle. Then another 3 seconds, headed by Brexuk. Then it's Fournier and Zux. 40 laps to go when they get to the line. We're about to reach the halfway mark of the Austrian Grand Prix. Yeah, very close there. They weren't teammates. I get the feeling he would have gone for that. Now Braxuk pulls to the right-hand side, and now he lets him through. So I didn't think Braxuk was quicker than Fournier, to be honest. I thought they should reverse them, and they have done now. That seems like the sensible call to me. We'll see what Fournier can do now in 4th place.
Yep, you're the chief strategist of Terminal.
Listening, clearly.
Yep, they are listening, clearly. You've got yourself a job, Ewan.
Well, help them in this situation. No, yeah, it just looked like it, didn't it? Just looked like Braxuk didn't quite have the speed of Fournier. Let's see what happens as they start to run like this. Whether it's actually a case of, well, the drivers in the background are always going to look a bit quicker because they've got a draft and DRS as well, of course.
Yeah, so we'll just need to look for the deficit between Jeffrey Fournier and Mark Schluter now, and see if that manages to claw back up. The Frenchman is really, really good here for this track, especially with Schluter and Fournier both on the same compound. If he can pull something, string something together. Actually, the improvement is already there. He's already gained almost a second. Yeah, and that might be key. This Hanko, I think that the medium tyre advantage has maybe just gone away from him now. And I'd be slightly concerned if I was Hanko. I understand why they sent him ahead. And, well, I can understand now why they sent him ahead and try to get him to catch up to Reuven Macheda. Just try and do something a little bit different. You're not going to beat Macheda by doing the same strategy as him with the speed he's got, but you might be able to if you do a different strategy. The problem he's got now is wearing medium tyres, and there's a whole load of hard tyre runners that might be about to come and collect him here. Yeah, absolutely. Patrick Hanko was only about, what was it? I think it was about 300s faster than Macheda, so it is starting to drop off a bit for the mediums, but he is still definitely going to give it his all. But I expect to see maybe in 5 or 6 laps, if it continues to drop off that drastically for Patrick, another pit stop for Go Team seems inevitable.
Let's see what the second pit stops of the day have to offer us. Especially from those medium tyre runners who are going for a second medium stint of the day. Those who are on the mediums for the first time are quite a long way behind the rest. Tom Oldemanga is catching up to Zagiadis slowly, but he's a long, long way back, unfortunately, for the man third placed in this Drivers' Championship as things stand. Zutra and Machete are both on the podium as 1 and 2 in the championship. Fournier's up here as well as Callis and Zooks as well. All the championship rivals you could hope to have up towards the front are all running towards the front, apart from Tom Olderbenger, whose qualifying position and now strategy looks like it's just falling short, although still got more than half this race to go after all.
Yeah, Olderbenger is desperate need for points if he wants to keep along with his fight with, Machete and co, and yeah, it's just not looking to be his race, but he is slowly starting to try and get up to pace. Patrick Hanko and Mark Schlichter, CMT Go Team have never had a double podium so far thus the season. In fact, the only team that has ever had a double podium has been Optimal this season, so another team to add to that books would be I think will definitely be a goal that Hanko and Schlichter would want to achieve.
So far, since this swap between Fournier and Braxtock, it's been single file as it was before. They're still as they were in this battle for 4th place, and still not really making any inroads to Schluter. In fact, all the gaps in the top 6 seem to be frozen in place. Not sure Callis is even making very many inroads, even despite the fact he's got some newer hard tyres on that car. I wonder whether he will... it's surely going to be mediums to the end of the race, but how short is that stint going to be, and how quick is it going to be as well compared to some of the hard tyre runners, if indeed it's a 2 hard and 1 medium 2-stop today, or whether there'll be drivers doing it on 2 mediums and 1 hard compound of tyres. We'll wait and see, but that seems to be the 2 options here. A 1 or 3 stop seems to be a little bit too out of the ordinary for today's race.
Yeah, absolutely. 71 laps with the heat. The heat has dropped down to 42, but is still relatively hot. And again, the softs have just been an absolute killer. So softs is not really looking likely unless if you want a 3-stop. But for the 2 stops, it's definitely going to, or will probably be either double hards and mediums or double mediums and a hards. But if that's the case with double mediums and a hard, you need to prolong your hards as much as you can. And if it's a double hard and medium, I think that's probably what most strategists are looking for here.
Well, this is the closest battle out there on the circuit at the moment, as the exactly 1 lap's time actually we'll be halfway through the Austrian Grand Prix, the first race here in 9 years since Michele D'Alessandro took victory in 2016. Only half a second of a victory over Daniel Kish back then. But the pole sitter that day took pole. D'Alessandro, wonder whether Machete is going to do the same here as well. He's only ever won in the World Championship from pole. Exactly what he did at Australia. He took pole in Bahrain as well, but DNF'd, I think with some sort of technical problem from what I remember. Hardware failure. So goodness knows what he could have done that day as well if that hadn't befallen him. It's a will always remain a mystery, of course, but what's not a mystery is his speed. Over 3 seconds now over Hanko, who's just starting to slip back a little bit. And Schluter will now start to collect his teammate, 2.5 seconds in front of him.
Yep, I think the mediums are starting to drop off a lot compared to the hards now. I think Hanko has really done everything he possibly can now, but those mediums are starting to really drop off in compared to Machete. I think he's still a bit on pace, but Machete just has that little bit more emphasis on the tire life to prolong a lot more through the corners, and for Hanko, it's just starting to run out now. So I think maybe we'll see Goatee maybe just prolong Hanko a bit longer for Schlichter to maybe catch up and maybe take a bit of the DRS advantage to just push ahead away from Jeffrey Fournier, and then we could see Hanko come into the pit stop later.
Do you remember how long Callis went on those odd tyres? Was it 30 odd laps or so? Can't remember now, but I'm wondering at that stage of the race, whenever, 30 laps to go, 28 laps to go, whatever it is, whether at that stage they'll bring Hanko in and say, these are your hard tyres, take them to the end of the race, because we're not actually that far away from that stage where, you can realistically get those hards to the end, even if they will be a little bit worse for wear by the finish.
Yeah, it's really hard. I think it's really hard to, ironically, trying to put on the hards and just trying to stick it to the end. I kind of don't see it because you need to really be careful on your hards. And in a track like Austria, with the amount of traffic that goes on, you're bound to be in some sort of fight or, being under overtaken or, realistically just being under some sort of pressure. I can see it. I can see it maybe happening, but they need to be extremely, extremely careful on the hards. And honestly, in these circumstances, I think it's just better to just go flat out and just put on the hards or get another pit stop onto your belt.
Zooks is very close to Braxok here. I wonder whether there's going to be another reversal of places between the Optiminal guys. Since Fournier got in front, they have actually brought the gap down, and we may be underselling this race at the moment. We do have 6 drivers covered by less than 10 seconds over halfway through the Austrian Grand Prix here. Mercedes is not running away with this quite in the way that we suspected. On the soft tyres in qualifying, he was imperious. In the first part of this race, when everyone was on mediums, he was pretty good as well, but he has not extended his advantage since putting these hard tyres on, and that is a notable difference there.
I think it's just, I think this is just runs true to like how hard it is to get the hards, you know, up to speed in some cases. And I know Hanko is also on the mediums, and he's managed to claw the deficit to about 3.5 seconds. But I think he's done very good in the first stint to try and get up to 7 seconds. But the fact that Hanko's already, you know, clawed up so much in just such a short space of time, especially when you consider where he started in the grid, I think it's a true testament to Patrick's good talent here around Austria. And you know, Mark Schluter has never been completely out of the equation in third. It's done very, very good to, you know, assist his teammate, even though it has swapped positions. And I'm sure he'll definitely want to be in second in terms of his championship rivals. His championship rivals, of course, first. And he's going to be losing out points if he, you know, finishes in third rather than second. But he's still doing, you know, very good to hold in there.
How is Sander Callas going to do as well here in the final 32 laps of this Grand Prix? Because 7th place at the moment, he's on newer tyres than everybody in front. He's got the best conditioned tyres in the whole race at the moment. But he's not really making fast inroads, and I just fear for his sake that when he catches up to the back of Zooks, that will be the start of the final pit stop phase for whatever compound they're going to put on to the finish. They're all going to come in just as he's getting to them. That might be a positive in the sense of he's not slowed down by traffic, but they're going to then have newer tyres than he does, which is less of a positive for Callas. And I'm just not sure how this strategy is going to work for him to get his first podium of the season, which of course he's got to be aiming for tonight.
Yeah, well, Zuch Brashkaka also have got for you to lead the DRS train, and it is a 3-way optimal train that are not fighting whatsoever because they're all trying to fight to protect their places. So it makes sense for Callas to, you know, try to maybe apply pressure to Zuch Brashok, but it's such a, it needs to make so many maneuvers, and with that many, you know, cushions to order to penetrate, try and get himself up into even 4th in this rate. It's going to be a hard task for Callas, but you know damn well he is going to try.
Well, he certainly will. As Lucas Viscott comes into pit lane, by the way, fair play for him for carrying on, because that crash down towards turn 4 could very much have sparked the end of his day, but thankfully not. And thankfully, over the 40 laps, that's really the only incident we've got to report here from the Grand Prix. A very, very clean race, and it's been a very clean season, I've got to say, so far in 2025. Really minimal in terms of accidents. As have I been saying that just as Mancini's been going for a spin, or not? I'm not sure, but he's certainly running 15th. And that, by the way, is Ruben Mercedes just in the background. That is the race leader.
Yeah, still 4 seconds now, so Hanko is starting to drop off a little bit. The last lap was 1:08.0 from Ruben, and Patrick was about 0.2 slower. So that is the sign that the mediums are indeed dropping off, and even Schluter is a 1:08 flat as well. In fact, he's about 100ths faster than Machete on the previous lap. So that means that we could maybe Schluter definitely going to catch up to Hanko very soon.
Absolutely. It could be a teammate nose to tail in a moment, but how much longer are they going to leave Hanko now? I wouldn't imagine it would be too much longer. The mediums are holding on quite nicely, I've got to say. Only dropped 4 seconds now as Callas continues to just home into view. Those 3 Optiminal drivers in front of him still running nose to tail. All of a sudden, Fournier doesn't quite look the quickest of the 3, much in the same way that Braxok didn't look the quickest earlier. Not sure if any of it's really true, what we can just observe with our eyes, but they're running nose to tail as they are anyway. Mancini decides to pit instead of pull off to the side of the road and slow down for everybody. Probably the better call for a lapped driver. It's of course still racing for the minor points down there, which go all the way down to 15 in the modern day of the World Championship, and have done for the last few years, just to keep numbers up, keep people from retiring early. My Prosciutto also comes into pit lane here with 30 laps to go. So we're in the window. We're in that window of the final stops of the day being made.
Yeah, we can expect to see those people making final stops, more or less trying to go into the hards. But with Callas, who has already been on the freshest hards ever, if he does go for another stop, more or less will likely be going for the mediums in about maybe 10 or so laps. But now he's so slowly entering into the picture for the Timnal, slowly down in 6 behind Such. So yeah, going to be interested to see how he navigates up for that field. But meanwhile, this is Oldemegger trying to break into the top 10. In fact, that's Patrick Hanko into the pits, and that's scheduled.
Yep, that is scheduled, and that will be hard tyres unless he's doing something very outlandish and going for 2 softs or something strange towards the end of the race. He's not doing that. It will be hard tyres, surely, for now until the finish of this race, as Callas has got the DRS for the first time as well. Oldemegger, as you say, on the back of Zalgianis. A little bit of traffic for Hanko might be a bit of an issue. That's Mancini, though, who is a lap down, so shouldn't be too much of a problem. Zingle is 5 seconds in front. That shouldn't affect him. Hanko is going to get an undercut here on Ruven Mercedes, who's really got something to think about now.
Yeah, for the man that was leading so comfortably ahead in the lead, if you're being under challenge from Hanko, it's got a lot of moment to think for Ruven. So he can really go either way, because we know that he has the pace to, take ahead for the lead. But we have never really seen it here for his second stint, though.
Well, he hasn't shown that pace so far, unless he's holding something back, but it would be strange if he is. Oldemegger closes in to Zalgianis. He's going to put that pressure on for 10th position at the moment, as is Callas for 5th place, by the way, just on the back of Zoltzuks, who are just coming around the final corner at the moment as well. So suddenly we've had these bursts here so far in this race, of a little bit where nothing's really happening, and then a burst of real action out on the circuit, especially around these 2 pit stop windows we've had tonight.
It's been extremely tactical, though. I think we see Oldemegger going into the pits, and then Zalgianis just following aside ahead of him. So these two are going to be on for their scheduled pit stops. And there goes Callas, definitely within the DRS train, lead by Jeffrey Fournier.
There it is, 1, 2, 3. Braxok, Zooks and Callas all in the DRS, but that's 2 laps of DRS now for Callas, and the slipstream and the DRS has not really brought him that much closer. Terminal 3 trio in front, trying to protect those top 5 positions here. Maybe even quite shortly come into pit lane. Jesse Latinen's on soft tyres. What on earth's he doing?
What?
That doesn't make any sense at all, with 28 laps still to go. Unless he's doing 2 stints, I suppose. Even that doesn't really make sense. Unless it is a graphical glitch on our side and it will sort itself out on the tower in a moment. I'm not entirely sure, but that is something we weren't expecting.
Yeah, I really don't think Jesse Latinen in this case would be on the softs. But if it is on the softs, then another stint would probably be at hand for the Finnish driver. It is? Is it on the softs?
Yeah, look, yeah. Well, it is. It looks like it in real life as well. You can see the red striping. Well, that is strange.
I mean, he is outside of the top 10, so to try and throw everything to break into the top 10 is one thing. But again, it's so many laps left to go. He's not going to leave those softs to the very end. But meanwhile, Sander Callas needs to find a way to break through this optimal wall ahead of him on a fresher compound. But there's 3 of Optimal, and there's only 1 of Callas.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the real problem when you're outnumbered like this. And it's going to be the problem, has been the problem, will be the problem for Callas all season. He is driving for Ground Effect SimRacing team, who just don't quite have the team to be up near Callas, really. He's a one-man band in the top 5. And that's going to make it very difficult over Go Team and an Optimal in the season. Through the final corner they come now, and onto the front straight. He's close, but is he going to be able to make his way through here? 26 laps to go as they go over the line. Just misses the apex at turn 1. Oh, that's not a very good exit either. That's the crucial corner, and he's got it wrong there.
Yeah, absolutely. Bit of a tank slapper through turn 1. At least he managed to save it, but that's not going to be good with the DRS straight, which could see how close he was to Zod. If he had made a better exit from turn 1, it could be looking at an overtake. So he just has to hold back for now.
Yep, he's continuing to just wait and see if he can come back through here, Callas. But at the moment, this is looking very, very difficult indeed. Be 25 to go when he gets over the line here. But he's on the newer tyres. He's got to make this count now, and he's sort of giving up laps of opportunity here for him to get through. And the aero wash will start to affect him now as well, especially through that middle sector and the final sector of this track.
Yeah, absolutely. Just with the amount of dirty air these three cars will produce will also be of hindrance to Callas through the second and final sector. But Callas's best opportunity is just the first sector alone. Turn 1 and turn 3, and he needs to make sure he gets the exits to pinpoint perfection, and that was Zolt going wide.
Yeah, so that was what he needed. Callas, either a good exit from himself or a bad exit from the driver in front, and Zoltzuks has had one. Not necessarily the move into turn 3, but he doesn't need to be. Turn 4 is just as good of a chance, and he's got a decent run there, a latish apex from Callas, and Zooks is just under a bit of pressure. It's not close enough, though. Zooks wasn't quite close enough when the mistake was made, but he's trying to run a little bit wide in a couple of places. You can tell Zooks is looking in his mirrors just by the way he started to drive now.
Yeah, you can see with Brashak and Fournier, they were both very, very close for turn 4, almost at contact. And they just about push off a little bit for now. But Callas, a really golden opportunity there, didn't quite muster into anything, but he still got another lap.
Yep, he will get... Oh, that's very wide. He's not going to have another lap if he drives like that through the final couple of corners, I'm afraid. And that was a missing of the apex there through the penultimate corner. Meanwhile, further behind, Patrick Hanko is going to have traffic as well in a moment. Zingle will be just in front of him, and that's going to be bad news if Hanko wants to undercut Ruben Mercedes, who's actually being caught by Mark Suter. The gap now dips below 5 seconds for the first time, 4.5 seconds for the first time in a very long time.
Yeah, so Schluter's done pretty good compared to Mercedes. I think Mercedes just let off his foot a bit for the time being. But again, he could be tire saving. If that's going to be the case, is he going to really push the hards to the end?
I can't see any of these going to the end. Absolutely, that would be outrageous. Just over 20 laps to go. I think they're waiting to get into a medium tyre position. Don't forget, Hanko was on the mediums for the first 2 stints.
Whoop.
So, and there he goes down the inside. Zingle doesn't hold him up too much. It looks like it's a 2 medium, 1 hard strategy from everybody but Callas. And they're just waiting to get into the window of the mediums, I think.
Yeah, I think so too, but with Reuven not being very strong on the second stint, the head just wonders if they're maybe trying to go for a one-stop. We have seen the one-stop before in the Pro, and that pretty much worked out wonders. 2 stops was not the way to go. But a one-stop for 71 laps, I just don't see it. Even with the track cooling down a bit, it's still too much of a risk. But we have seen it before, and we see there with Callas a little bit sideways going through the first exit yeah, it's compromised his DRS line and can't apply pressure into Zolt.
He's just struggling to get that pressure on now that he needs it, really. He got up to them, not that quickly, but he did a good job of catching them. Now he's there. He's finding this a little bit more difficult here. He's only 10 seconds off the lead of Ruben Mercedes, so all of these guys are very much in the race at the moment. And as I said earlier, we're probably underselling this at the moment. This is a very, very close race after a not very close qualifying session. So it's very interesting. Well, who kicked up that dust there coming through the double left-hander? 3 Optiminals in front, and of course the lapped car of Marsa in front as well. Is that a bit of shaping for pit stop? Well, that wasn't very well worked from Optiminal, actually. It should have got Braxock in front of Fournier there on that last lap, because look at how it slowed up their teammates, and look at Callas now. He can't not take the opportunity down the inside and towards turn 1, and suddenly Callas can almost take the racing line in time for the first corner.
Yo, guys, get a bit sideways, and that might compromise it. Well, allow for Zolt to make the move.
Well, he's got a better exit. This is what Callas needed earlier, but don't forget he's on the DRS hit. So will Zooks be, of course. They're both in behind Braxock within 7 tenths, so they both allowed it, and now on the way down the next straight they'll both get it again, and there's the problem that Callas has been running into now all race. Now Zooks is experiencing it.
Yeah, absolutely. Ooh, Callas gone sideways for turn 4, almost loses the position. 2 Zolt behind, but still manages to keep it controlled, still holds on to 4th. Now he's got Brashak just up ahead and needs to find that same momentum that he's had to overtake Zolt many moments ago.
21 laps to go as they get to the start-finish line here. Ruben Mercedes carries on again at the front of this race. Patrick Hanko is 8 seconds in front of Fournier and into the pit lane for Braxock. That's a smart call. Having Fournier come in in front of his two teammates wasn't particularly smart, but having Braxtock come in right in front of Callis was not a bad idea at all, as Mark Sluter has also come in. Surely Mercedes is going to respond to this soon.
Yeah, he's definitely going to be bound into the pits soon. But meanwhile, Callis is going to allow for Such to have the DRS train now and just follow him behind. So that's going to be very good news there for the Attimo driver. He's effectively going to prolong the use of his hards by being in within the DRS of Callis.
I think he's probably better off waiting now, Zooks, rather than actually trying to get past Callis, but can certainly use his DRS to go a bit quicker down the straights and maybe stay with him as well to tow him along around the lap. But let's see, as Ruben Mercedes now comes through the middle sector, he'll now be in the final sector. More lap traffic in front of him as well. I think Cedric Bill is not far ahead, so that's another reason maybe to come into the pit lane here. Oh, it's not Bill, sorry. That is Viscott, who's about to go 2 laps down. Does Mercedes decide to come into pit lane? No, he carries on again, and this is an interesting call now. I know he wants the tyre life towards the end, but he's got to be very careful that he doesn't lose the race lead for good.
Yeah, that's very important that the German needs to keep track of. Yes, he is extremely good on the race pace in the first stint, but it's never been replicated in the second stint. In fact, he might be even more pressure if the strategy does not pay off in his favour. Here comes Callis exiting out.
Callis, and to the rejoin, that is Cedric Bill coming out.
No. Yeah, Bill's coming out, my bad.
That's Bill coming out the pit lane. There is Zooks, who came in. Sluter goes past Fournier as well. Fournier's outlet was very good, and the undercut looks massive. Look at that. Fournier came in 1 lap in front of Braxtock. That's 3 seconds. Braxtock 1 lap in front of Zooks. That's 3 seconds. Mercedes can't leave this too much longer, otherwise he's going to lose the race lead.
I worry for Optimal. They may not have got the strategy correct for Reuven if that undercut is that massive and powerful. There goes Reuven. He's into the pits, but is it too late?
Well, is it too late? Hanko will be quite close to him. Mark Sluter will be even closer, I would imagine. Sluter's actually catching his teammate, and so Hanko could be a bit of a roadblock for the other Optimal drivers a bit later. We'll get to that in the last 20 laps of the Austrian Grand Prix, but this could be a grandstand finish here in the Red Bull Ring. Callis goes past, that's no surprise. Will Hanko go past though? There he comes, out of the final corner now. This is going to be quite close. It's a tight exit here at the Red Bull Ring, and Mercedes going to lose this race lead. Patrick Hanko leads the Grand Prix for CMT Go Team Racing, and in the background, Mark Sluter's not going to be too far away. There he is at the bottom of your shot. He's not quite in front of the Mercedes at the moment, and if Mercedes can replicate the medium tyre pace that he had in the first stint, then he's going to be absolutely fine to go on and win this, but he is under more pressure than he's ever been in this race so far.
Yeah, absolutely. Sandwiched between 2 Go Team Racing drivers and his championship rival behind in Sluter. He's going to try and look to break through past Reuven Mercedes, and Hanko is going to try and do everything he can to assist him. And meanwhile, we can see with Sluter, he must be absolutely happy as his race is saved once again.
Mark Sluter is right there with Reuven Mercedes. This is worked out brilliantly. This is a masterclass from CMT Go Team Racing on how to strategize your way through a Grand Prix and get your 2 cars in contention for the race win. It's not inconceivable they finish this race 1 and 2. It would take a big effort from Hanko to do that, especially on the defensive driving, but it's not inconceivable, and considering the places they qualified, that is extraordinary.
Yeah, absolutely. And Mark is going to do everything he can to apply the pressure onto Mercedes. He's doing a lot he can, but he's not used up to his similar pace that he has in the first stint. So it's taken a while for Reuven to get there. And Mark is looking to capitalize here as we go for turn 3.
He's close again, Sluter, but on the back of Mercedes, not quite ahead of Mercedes at the moment. Into the DRS he goes. Now on the back straight. Down on the brakes now, ready for turn 4. This is super close for the race lead. Been talking a little bit about this race like it's a done deal for Reuven Mercedes, considering his qualifying time and that first stint race pace that was on the medium tyres you mentioned earlier on. But the hard tyre stint was not really his thing. We'll have to ask him about it at the end of the day if he comes to have a chat with us, because that's so interesting that on the different compounds he's had different speed compared to the others today.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think it's been a really huge surprise since he was 2/10 faster than the car in second place for Sluter, that he's now under in this pressure from Sluter and from Hanko. As Callis now makes his scheduled pit stop, I think the compound that he'll go is probably either the mediums or, if he dares, the softs.
Maybe even softs. Ed Hunter suggesting that Callis might go for the softs. He might not have been able to stretch out quite far enough for that. No, he's gone for the medium. So behind all the optiminals, that's no surprise. But he knows exactly what he has to do for the remainder of this one. Mercedes gets really close to Hanko now, and he's in the draft. He's got the DRS on the way towards turn 4. Here comes Hanko. He's got to defend, and he's in. Oh, and there he goes on the outside. Mercedes. He breaks quite late though. Hanko's still there on the inside line, and Sluter needed to be closer to take advantage of his teammates' work. Side by side they go now into the middle sector. This is through turn 6. Mercedes just about gives the room to Hanko, and he's on a compromised line now through turn 7. Hanko's going to have a better exit, but no, he's on the hard tyres, don't forget. How quickly does he get out of the way of his teammate here, Mark Sluter? He's not going to get out of the way before the final 2 turns. Mercedes leads the Austrian Grand Prix with still 16 laps to go.
Here we go. Hanko sure needs to exchange positions now, needs to let Schluter through because he needs to try and catch up back as I head through turn 1. But it's exactly what Ruben needs to do to try and dispel of Hanko, and he did so as quickly as he possibly could, even though it took a bit longer through the second sector. But at least he takes the lead once again.
He's in the lead at least, Mercedes, and there goes the swap. As you say, they had to do that really into the final 2 corners. I think they really lost a lot of time there, keeping Hanko in front, because of those harder tyres that are older. Not very old, but they are a lot worse of a race tyre than the mediums. So Hanko's going to be left to his own devices. It's Sluter versus Mercedes for the win for the second round in a row.
That's going to be absolutely incredible, and think about the momentum that will wave into Mercedes' favour in the World Championship standings, and you can feel for the German. He must be absolutely ecstatic to come home and win once again. I think we got a yellow flag. That was one of the terminals I think spun off coming out for turn 1.
I didn't see who brought that one up, but Zingle is a bit further down than where he was before. So 1.2 seconds, 15 laps to go. That is a long time for Ruben Mercedes to soak up this pressure to take his second race victory ever in the World Championship. And his big championship rival is right behind him. This was unthinkable on lap 7, but on lap 57, we've got a battle for the race lead between these two.
I honestly cannot believe it, Ewan. I cannot believe from the start of the race with how far Ruben Mercedes has led, and with how the race has developed, especially with Schluter and Hanko exchanging positions, that will even come down to this.
This is quite remarkable, but can Mark get back on terms here with Ruben Mercedes? What's going to happen to Patrick Hanko? Is he just going to get mauled by the field? Callas gets past Zooks meantime. That was a lot more efficient, getting up to 6th place. It's kind of what he needed to do in the hard tyre stint. Callas is on slightly newer tyres, and he's clearly got some great speed as well. Though, how far can he get up the field? Maybe Callas is going to be in the top 5, and who knows where they're going to finish here. This top 7 are really close, and we really don't know which order they're going to be by the end.
Yeah, Jeffrey Thorny, though, benefiting a lot from that undercut. I think Callas was at least trying to aim for the podium, but even now a top 5 will be a good opportunity for the Grand Effect to even achieve, as Brashcock and Fournier. I think he is within reach of Brashcock, but I think Fournier might be just too far ahead, but we'll have to see.
Well, it doesn't look like Zooks is going to have any response to Callas here, I don't think. Unless he's going to make me eat my words on the way towards turn 3. Let's see. Maybe he will. He's in the slipstream. DRS. Uphill. Make late. No, ooh. He doesn't quite dive down. There's a half chance there, but it would have been a bit kamikaze for him to dive down the inside there. Be in the slipstream and get the DRS again here, but no. 13 laps to go when he gets to the line. And he looks like he's got the speed to stay with Callas at least. So that's good news for the teammates, who will maybe get a little bit of a reprieve from Callas. Certainly Brackstock might be caught, but actually Fournier is getting away from Brackstock quite quickly, and he's catching Hanko quite quickly as Jeffrey Fournier. So that record of Fournier's that you were talking about, of finishing on the podium every time he finishes, looks like it might stay true in the next few laps, but let's see.
Yeah, Hanko's also looking for his first podium, and Go Team Racing looking for their first double podium this season. Could be taken away from them if Jeffrey Fournier can manage to time his aggression perfectly and make a good overtake in these closing stages of the race.
Into turn 3 for those two. We'll just continue to monitor the gap between them, about 1.3 seconds right now. It's noticeable again, isn't it, though, that Mercedes in this last stint of the race also doesn't have the speed quite that Sluter does. Well, I think they're quite even, really, but you know, this is much different. I thought it was a tyre compound thing when we saw the second stint, because obviously second stint was on hard tyres, first stint was on mediums. I thought that was the difference, but they're back on mediums again, and Mercedes hasn't refound that pace.
No, absolutely. In fact, Schluter has set the fastest lap. The previous lap, it was a 1:06.436, which is about 1/10 faster than what Mercedes is currently running. But I think Mercedes is starting to put the pedal to the floor now, because he's starting to push that deficit between himself and Schluter just a little bit further. I think that gap has increased by 0.2.
It's just ever so slightly edging away from Schluter at the moment as we get on to lap 60. Going to continue to apply the pressure though, and there will be lap traffic to negotiate. Cedric Pill is back in front of them again, so he'll have to be lapped, as will Lucas Viscott before the finish, I would imagine. Both have to be put a lap down, and if Mercedes tripped up by that, will be trouble for the race leader. Further behind, Hanko is caught by Fournier. Luckily for Hanko, they're 4 seconds in front of Braxock, who's really not quite been quick enough to catch Hanko at the moment, so it looks like it's either going to be third or fourth for Hanko, which would be either equal or better than his best result of the season so far at Bahrain, which was a 4th place finish. We will see whether he can hold on to it though in that battle. We go back to Tom Oldermenger, the man who started the day 3rd place in the Drivers' Championship. He's had a bit of a miserable day, and that is... Oh, he saved it from going out the wall at least, but that's a spin through turn 8.
Yep, that was a good save from Tom. Again, it's not quite found his form throughout the entire race, but at least if he maybe might be able to excel Yanis, might be able to break into the top 10 and maybe able to salvage something here. But meanwhile, turning back to Mark Schluter, look at the gap now. It's gone up by even 0.2 more, and you can just see why. It's been as 0.67 from Reuven, and Mark Schluter has just been a little bit slower than that. So again, I think Schluter has just pushed all of that he can on the mediums, and I think it might be died here. As you can see, Reuven navigating through the lap traffic, not giving him much of a trip up as we imagined. So he seems to be safe for now with 10 laps left to go.
Yep, he's going okay for the moment, and that's exactly what he needed. Now, Schluter needs that lap traffic to get out of his way as well, just as quick. And first play to Cedric Bill there. They are on the same team, Bill and Suter. So he very much could have got in the way, but that wouldn't be very sporting from a lap driver. So fair play to him for getting out the way. And that gap is now starting to extend again. Mercedes maybe starting to flex his muscles all over again here. So the battle now is between Hanko and Fournier. If Fournier gets in front here of Hanko, then they'll score more points in the Teams Championship and extend their 10-point advantage to make it an even bigger advantage. Well, I think they're actually still gaining 1 as it stands up terminal, but this would gain them another 6 points on top of that, so 7 overall. If Fournier makes this pass, of course, but it's clear who the top 2 teams are this season, and that's exemplified by this top 5 at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, CMT Go has been pretty off the fit in compared to Optimal, but has been given their absolute all. In fact, probably one of their strongest showings as a team this season thus far against Optimal, and Optimal sure or less has responded. And Geoffrey Fournier, as we've seen on board with him, he's been 0.3 faster than Hanko in the last 2 laps. So to capitalize that off with maybe an overtake here in the closing stages will be another record to add. As we mentioned before, he's finished on the podium numerous of times this season, and to add another one to his books would be all the more sweeter for him. As through the second sector, approaching through the third sector, Hanko knows that he's a bit he's off of the wrong foot here, so he just needs to defend as much as he possibly can from the Frenchman. Through the final 2 corners they go, and you can just see Fournier's got a much more superior grip than Hanko does.
9 laps to go, including the one they've just began now, so that's going to feel like a long, long way from home now for Patrick Hanko in 3rd position ahead of Geoffrey Fournier. This is difficult times now for the Go Team driver as he looks to get his first podium of the season. Fournier into the slipstream, a man who's been on the podium in the past in the World Championship, looking down the inside. He won't manage it there. A slight bit of defending there from Hanko on the way towards turn 3. Fournier will try and get in the slipstream, back again, and now have another look. And as will Callis, actually. We'll try and keep our eyes in 2 places at once. Fournier looks on Hanko. He won't quite get there. Braxock was really under pressure from Callis as well, and it was much closer. Wow, look at that. Tanner Callis straight through and up into the top 5. So the ground effect driver at least back to where he started this race, inside the top 5 once again.
Yep, great move there by Callas. Exactly what he needs to do to get himself up to the top 5. He's just going to keep his eyes open to the Hanko and Fournier to see how that battle will develop. Somehow unlikely, if they continue to fight longer than necessary, he might join along with this fight. But I think Fournier will be looking for a one-and-done deal with Hanko. Through the final corner he goes. Again, much more superior grip than Hanko does. Hanko immediately goes defensive, hogging into the inside line, then weaves back out to the outside line for the approach into turn 1.
Hanko has finished on the podium, of course, in the World Championship before, back in 2024 at Imola. And he do it again here this time around. Let's get onto the brakes for turn 3. 28, who's done it a few more times, is trying to take that off him, and that is not going to be the exit that takes it off Hanko this time round. Hanko's still very wary of what's going on behind him there, and weaves around a little bit, but Fournier looking for his 4th ever podium in the World Championship. But can he get through? He's applying that pressure and doesn't want to let this get too out of hand because Callas will catch up, but luckily they've got 5 seconds or so back to the Estonian.
Seen before, whenever Callas was trying to make up the field, it was all about just stringing in your lap together, perfecting your exit points and your entries, and making as much use of the tyres as you possibly can. Seeing a similar frustration with Fournier, that he's much faster than Hanko, but can't quite string it all together to make a viable chance to make a move onto Patrick yet. As again, turn 1 they both go. That's going to be traffic up ahead, and don't think it'll trip any of them up.
Shouldn't do here for these guys at the front end of the field, especially since the leaders have come through already. These guys know that they're a lap down. It's not like it is for the leader who are putting them a lap down for the first time. Fournier is much closer this time though, compared to Hanko, just a little bit of left weaving actually, but he'll be getting the slipstream of his own. Well, the faintest bit anyway, and Fournier again not close enough. This is going to turn to frustration soon, as of course those hard tyres start to become a little bit better compared to those medium tyres, which will start to be falling away now.
Yeah, poor exit out 4 through 5 means that Hanko's got more breathing space through the second sector, and with Fournier having to suffer from the dirty air through 6 and 7 and 8 means that he just needs to concede and wait again for another lap in hand. And again, there's the lap traffic that we're talking about that might play in play, but again, it's not going to trip either of them up, as we both agreed.
Yeah, hopefully all right through turn 1. There you go. So that's why Hanko is getting that teammate to stay in front, is because DRS and slipstream. So this effectively takes one of the 6 laps that are remaining, including this one, out of the equation. Ooh. The lap cost stays out of the way, doesn't get in the way of Fournier, but does give the slipstream and the DRS. That's probably the best way to help your teammate without doing anything unsporting. That was very, very good lap driving indeed from Cedric Bill, it was, in the Go Team racing car. That was very, very smart. Giving the DRS and the slipstream, but not getting in the way of the battle.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's exactly the sort of chance that Hanko needs to hold on for the time being, and I think that might be another car that's going to be up ahead, so that might also play a bit in play. And with the DRS, if it happens for straight once again, then maybe Hanko will give in another lifeline here in his defense against Fournier. But this is so exciting here, with just a handful of laps left to go.
5, including the one we're just about to begin now, and Hanko feeling the need to bring it all the way to the pit wall in order to break the slipstream there on the way down the front straight. Goodness knows what he's going to do on these longer straights now towards turn 3 and turn 4. There's an early sign of what he might do. Another bit of slipstream though from a driver in front. Fournier though in the slipstream himself, looks down the inside into turn 3, but he wasn't close enough there. Can he get the exit? Something which he's been struggling with, and look at the drive for Hanko. Such a fantastic drive out of turn 3 that he's got, and again it prevents Fournier from going through. Fournier's got to do this at turn 3 because into 4 he's never anywhere near close enough.
Yeah, too much of a counter steer through 3 and another counter steer through 4. Has been constantly struggling like that when trying to pressure Hanko, and then Hanko again with the DRS to his advantage. Another lifeline has been given to him and prolongs it just that little bit longer. But the thing is, there's no more lap traffic ahead of him, so he's effectively on his own against Fournier now.
He's absolutely on his own, and that might not be a bad thing, especially considering the traffic. That was a big snap for Fournier. Good save again. These drivers have got unbelievable reaction times and they have saved these cars again and again and again out of those final 2 corners, especially now through turn 1. This is where Fournier really is stronger than Hanko, but that was a good turn 1 this time round. In the background, somebody's off down at turn 1. That looks like Cedric Bill, maybe, who has gone off through turn 1 and is out of the way of the battle between Callas and Braxuk, by the way, which is still going on for 5th place just in the background.
Yeah, that was very, very close. I hope they're fine. They seem to be continuing to running, and well, I think with some damage, have to go into the pits and maybe jump another lap down for that. That's very unfortunate there from the Frenchman. But Tetcher still drops the front, though. Jeffrey Fournier still applying pressure to Patrick Hanko, but Hanko still hasn't budged yet.
This is what happened. Oh, it's Viscott, sorry. Went for a spin. He's already 2 laps down, and thankfully got out the way of Callas and Braxuk before causing too much of a problem. So, side by side, and Giannis down the side of Lehtinen. Has Lehtinen come in off those softs, by the way, since he put them on? I don't think I've seen him in again. So this is an extraordinary job at the moment, if that is true. Lehtinen at 9th. Sorely Giannis, though, is going to take that position away from him. Surely he's going to lose a top 10 as well. There's only 3 laps to go, but those tyres surely are going to be absolutely finished.
Yeah, absolutely, and have to keep with Tom Oldemaker if it really is on the softs with these closing stages. Maybe with him on the hards and Lehtinen on the softs, he'll be under pressure in the dying stages of the race. But Touchett still draws up between Fournier and Hanko.
Sluter not that far in front of Hanko here, by the way. He's really struggling on these mediums towards the end. So Mercedes certainly showing some of that speed that we saw from him early on in this race on those mediums, and of course in qualifying as well, where he took the biggest pole margin of his career, even in his 3rd pole position of the season, indeed of his career. Braxuk just in behind Callas. He's been closest, but not able to go through.
No, he hasn't, but still relatively close and just following alongside Callas as much as he possibly, which is effectively what the game that he is playing. But still, look at this Fournier and Hanko. I think that will be Schluter, but I think Schluter may have enough of a gap. No, he doesn't, so this is going to be a 3-way car battle for P2. Schluter has been struggling over the last 3 laps.
Well, this is unexpected, but Mark Schluter is suddenly really in trouble here. And again, what a great drive from Patrick Hanko to be the one there to protect him. Now that Hanko's got the DRS, I don't see a way in which Fournier gets past him here, and these teammates surely aren't going to fight. Schluter's move to the right there says that, I think. Don't go past me. This is too late in the race. We can't be doing anything silly now. Fournier goes too deep into turn 3. I think this will stay as it is to the finish because those Go Team drivers have worked this out perfectly, or have they? Hanko looks at the inside. Well, that would be a surprise to see him take his teammate and his championship leaders' positions away.
Yeah, that's going to be a big struggle. But the thing is, Schluter is struggling so much that I think maybe even Callas and Braxuk might be able to catch up just a little bit. But at least Fournier and Hanko on the back of Schluter. I know Hanko has to stick behind Schluter, but the question is, will he? Will the team agree? Because it's coming down to just 1 more lap left to go. Is it going to be Schluter, Hanko, or Fournier going to take 2nd place? As you see, Fournier counter-reacting his slide.
Goodness me, this has all got very close towards the end of the race. 5 drivers battling for 2 podium places, and Mark Schluter and Patrick Hanko hold them at the moment, the 2 Go Team drivers. But can they hold them? Fournier is close again here. He has had his chances towards turn 3. Hanko's going to be forced to defend while not overtaking his teammate, and this is going to be very difficult. It allows Fournier alongside into turn 3, and he's squeezed out. Here comes Sander Callas. He's going to take advantage now in this battle for 4th place. Hanko gives him the slipstream, and so Fournier keeps it, but Callas is very close. He's going to dive at turn 4, is he? No, he just has a look, but no chance through. They all go way too deep on the brakes at turn 4. Schluter just about keeps his 2nd position for the moment. Hanko 3rd. Fournier 4th, and Callas just about 5th. What's going to happen in these final corners as Schluter coasts home to a second place finish here at the Austrian Grand Prix? But further out front, it's going to be Ruben Mercedes who comes out of the final corner. He will take his 2nd race victory as Hanko slow on the... Oh, it's Schluter slow. Schluter's slow, and Fournier goes past, so does Callas. Braxuk can't quite do it. Mark Schluter there's run out of fuel. We said he might be struggling for fuel, and he has run out. Mark Schluter, big miscalculation here, and he loses big points. He loses a podium, and he drops down to 6th position at the end of the Austrian Grand Prix.
Oh, that is such heartbreak for Schluter, but good news for Hanko though as he gets his first podium in, and Fournier continues on his podium streak. Carlos just about misses out on the podium, and Brasho gets up into 5th. But think about the points that Schluter has lost here, from being 2nd all the way down to 6th. This is not going to look good for his championship hopes.
Always provides the drama, does the Formula Sim Racing World Championship. And what an end to that race once again. Mark Schluter loses 4 places in 2 corners at the end of that race to finish 6th, his worst result of the season so far, and he loses 15 points to this man. Reuven Mercedes takes his 2nd career victory in the Formula Sim Racing World Championship, and suddenly he's right in this conversation for a world title. What a race, and what a crucial race it could turn out to be as well, with Mark Schluter losing out on all those positions right at the very end.
Dream race for Reuven Mercedes. Even though it looked to be under immense pressure on his 2nd and 3rd stint, he still managed to deliver when it was needed and absolutely converts another pole position into a race win. Absolutely incredible there from the German. Really good there from Hanko to deliver extraordinarily up into 2nd, which looks super unlikely in the early stages when we were going down for the grid, to finish in 2nd. And Jeffrey Fournier completes for the podium. But you gotta feel for Mark Schluter though here.
Yeah, there are your full race results. You say Mercedes, Hanko, Fournier, the podium drivers. Hopefully we'll chat to a few of them later. Sander Callas finishes 4th in the end. Decent result for him, but it's another 4th place. He seems to be very attracted to them at the moment. That's 3 in a row now for him at Malaysia, Austria, and now Australia, and now Austria. Jennis Braksuk then rounds out the top 5 ahead of Schluter, who ran out of fuel there towards the end. Zoltzuks was a little bit disconnected from the rest actually at the end. Finished 7th ahead of Cosmo Prosciutto, George Zazianis and Tom Oldemenger, who rounded out the top 10. Then just outside of the top 10, we'll have a look at the positions just outside of there. Jesse Lahtinen finished just outside of the top 10 on that slightly strange soft tyre strategy towards the finish. Maybe, well, we'll see that score through in a moment anyway. But yeah, those are the ones you need to know about for the top end of the championship anyway. Schluter loses points to Reuven Mercedes. There at the second page. Jesse Lahtinen, 11th head of Istvan Single. Then Nando Marsa, who was the first driver, 1 lap down. Cedric Bill and Mirko Mancini were also a lap down. Lucas Viscott was 2 down at the end of that race. Let's have a chat then to the race winner, shall we? Reuven Mercedes, who has won the Austrian Grand Prix in 2025. Reuven, congratulations on your 2nd race victory in the World Championship, 2nd in a row as well. Different circumstances this time, but first of all, how are you feeling at the end of that?
I'm feeling pretty good. I'm very happy. And also with Mark running out of fuel, I closed the championship gap even more, which is really great. And couldn't have hoped for a better evening tonight.
Just 13 points behind Schluter now, and you've got more than 10 points to 3rd place as well, which is now Jeffrey Fournier in the Drivers' Championship.
Oh, nice.
But wanted to dive a little bit into your pace here tonight. First of all, your qualifying lap was a lot quicker than the rest of the field. It was your biggest margin on pole by some distance tonight compared to the others you've had this season. And in the medium tyre stint to begin with, you raced out to a big lead. But in the middle part of the race, it held that lead. And you actually didn't even come out in the lead after your final stop. So were you struggling a bit more with the hard tyres? What was going on there through that middle part of the race where you didn't quite seem as quick as you were for the rest of the night?
Yeah, I struggled a bit on the hard tire, made a lot of mistakes. Yeah, I think in the end the driving style I had for tonight wasn't ideal for the hard tire. That's why I also chose with the medium in the end. But I mean, it worked out brilliantly. Once I saw Hanko right in front of me, I was like, okay, they're playing a 2 versus 1 game. But yeah, Patrick did a pretty fair job and was a nice battle, and hope to have more fun in the next races.
Absolutely. I'll look forward to seeing you again, of course, next month for the next round of the championship. But for now, Reuven, congratulations on the win tonight, and thanks for chatting to us at the end as well.
Thank you very much. Enjoy.
Thanks so much. Reuven Mercedes there, the race winner tonight from the Austrian Grand Prix. Head of Patrick Hanko, who finishes in second position. Patrick, welcome in. Good to have you with us. And congratulations on your first podium of the 2025 season and your best ever result in the Formula Sim Racing World Championship. Tell us how you're feeling at the end of that race.
Hello guys, thank you. Feeling exhausted. The last laps were crazy, especially with Mark having to save fuel. And I didn't want to really overtake him since he's fighting for the championship. So it was intense and I'm really happy. It was a crazy race. I had a crazy first lap. I started P8 and in the second sector I was already P3, so I don't even know how that happened, but yeah, I got lucky there and yeah, then it all worked well. It was a bit tricky with the strategy. I regretted taking hards for the second stint, but at the end it was a good call, I guess.
Just to rewind to that first lap, that you say you don't know how you got up to that position in one go, but we were speaking and speculating about what a help to the team that was, and especially to Mark as well, for you to be there as a teammate in amongst all of the Optimal eSports drivers who were up there. What help was that to yourself and to Mark to have a teammate around, since you were both in the top 3 after lap 1, which wasn't the case in qualifying?
Yeah, of course, it's better to be two together. Rowan was not much, but he was faster than us, so we were not really in the fight until the end. Then I helped a bit with fighting with Rowan a bit, but yeah, again, it didn't work very well. But of course, it's great to be with someone on the track, and I hope we can do this again in the future. But I have quite big issues in qualifying. I always qualify at the back or in the middle. I always lose like 3-4 tenths to my best laps in practice. I don't know why, but it's like every single time. So today, having a crazy good lap allowed me to be there.
Well, congratulations on finishing second place. As I say, your best finish in the World Championship to date. And thanks for coming to chat to us at the end of the day as well.
Thank you
so much, Patrick Hanko, second place here tonight from the Austrian Grand Prix, and that just about looks like it's going to be it for the interviews that we're going to get here tonight. Looking at that situation, Amir, it's very, very different to what it was at the start of the day. Mark Schluter's championship lead has been more than halved by Reuven Mercedes, down to just 13 points. We've still got 6 rounds to go. It's very, very early in the season, but the last 6 rounds come very thick and fast in the final 4 months of the year. In fact, they're all crammed into less than 4 months at those final 6 rounds. It's an intense part of the schedule and not the time in the season you want your momentum to be going away, particularly for Mark Schluter. On the other hand, it's not particularly the time that Reuven Mercedes wants a break, because he is certainly in form at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's going to be really hard if you're on a very good form to return back and try to find that form again. But at least the good thing with Reuven Mercedes is that for time and time again, he has been really well and has constantly developed since Melbourne. So he's done really well in Melbourne. He's done really well in Austria. And come Silverstone, I'm sure he'll be more in time with it. Also, a good thing with Jeffrey Fournier is he completes another podium, also with Reuven Mercedes as well. So they've been 1 and 3rd twice now since Melbourne and now here at Austria. And you got to feel for Go Team, because in the standings it would have been good for Hanko and for Schluter to both be on the podium, their first double podium, to claw the back up to Optinol. But now Optinol has an even bigger gap, and whenever we turn back over from the break, it's going to be a very exciting duel between Schluter and Mercedes over at Silverstone.
5 weeks away, the next round. That's when we return from the break on the 14th of September for, of course, Pro and World Championship racing here at the Formula Sim Racing World Championship as well. So make sure you rejoin us for that as well in 5 weeks' time. Big thanks to Amir Oates for being alongside myself, Ewan O'Leary, in commentary here tonight of the Austrian Grand Prix, and to Pascal Eggert for being the production and camera guy for us here tonight as well at the Austrian Grand Prix. And a big thanks, of course, to everyone who's been tuned in tonight. You've certainly been treated to a very, very exciting finish, and we're going to be treated to a very, very exciting rest of 2025. Enjoy the summer break. We'll be back in 5 weeks' time with the remainder of the Formula Sim Racing Pro and World Championship seasons, starting on the 14th of September with the British Grand Prix, which will be round 5 of those championships. For now, though, from all of us, from the Red Bull Ring and the Austrian Grand Prix here tonight, it's